Hey everybody, it's Gauntlet X and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have the Forgotten Realms Draft Challenges. These will be up from August 7th through the 10th, and they are the more competitive draft format, the most competitive draft event you can really get into on Arena. So these are twice the entry fee of a premier draft or a traditional draft at 3,000 gems or 20,000 gold, but for that cost of entry, there's also a lot more prizes on the line. For 0, 1, and 2 wins, you're not getting too much. You're getting nothing, 1 player draft token or a player draft token in 3 packs, but if you make it all the way up to 3 wins or better, that is where you are doing a little better than breaking even, all the way up to getting just a boatload of packs. At 3 wins, you break even with 2 player draft tokens in 6 packs. Of course, the player draft tokens being worth about 10,000 gold or 1,500 gems apiece, because that is the cost of a draft that you can spend those on. You can spend them in Premier Draft or Traditional Draft. At 4 wins, you're getting 3 player draft tokens and 10 packs. So already, if you make it to 4 wins, you're already highly in the money, and after that, everything is just gravy. You start getting 15 packs and 3 tokens, or 4 player draft tokens and 20 packs if you make it all the way up to 6 wins. So the draft challenges are always a fun way to kind of test your mettle in the format against a bunch of pretty competitive players in the most high-stakes draft event that you can get into on Arena. And yeah, I'm excited to try it out here and see how we do. Alright, and here we are with pack 1, and it's going to be a little difficult one to choose. There's no great rares or uncommons in my opinion. Forsworn Paladin is fine. A 1-mana 1/1 menace that gives you a repeatable way to use your mana. You can start making some treasure tokens or giving something +2/+0 and potentially Death Touch. I'm not a massive fan of this card. Both of those abilities are moderately weak for the price. I guess ideally you play this turn 1, get a treasure turn 2, and you can ramp out a 4 or 5 mana card pretty early. You're not in love with the Forsworn Paladin. The best uncommon in my opinion is the Druid class, just because it's a great late game mana sink. Don't love the other ones. I think I'll just be going for like an Owlbear here, just probably the best common in the pack over any of the uncommons or the rares, to be honest. Just really do love the Owlbear 5 mana for that 4/4 trample that draws a card. Quite often one of the biggest creatures on the board and also replaces itself immediately. Well, I guess we could have started off with double Forsworn Paladin here. That would have been interesting for sure. But I kind of like following up the great green cantrip creature with the great white cantrip creature. 3 mana for the 2/1, gain a life, draw a card here. Maybe get started to a nice just white-green value deck. The best things that the white-green decks can really do are going to be life gain synergistic as well, and the Priest of Ancient Lore does give us a life gain trigger when we play it. Alright, well, this is an interesting spot to be in, because now the cards in green and white are very filler, both Doorfold Champion and Inspiring Bard. You know, nice cards at their mana costs, 2 and 4, but nothing that we need to take particularly highly. I think we're probably supposed to just take something off color here, not get completely married to Selesnya here, as much as I do enjoy it. Could definitely see an argument for Farida Devil's Chosen. It is the #1 biggest reason to be a blue-red deck, giving you quite a bit of card draw in the dice rolling strategy. If we're not taking that, I think the other best off-color card's mainly just like a Drider, just a big old reach blocker, and if it does manage to get through, you are spitting out little spider tokens. I think I'm just going to take Farida Devil's Chosen here, though. Alright, and here we do see green and white cards available to us again. The pick is probably between Owlbear and Celestial Unicorn for me. If I want to get completely married to life gain, I can slam down a Celestial Unicorn and just plant my feet on the ground firmly and say I am forcing life gain here. But I don't think I want to force life gain that hard. I can take a second Owlbear here, and then it's possible we even just have green as our core. We can start drafting something other than white here, end up in any green deck, green red, green blue, green black, whatever it is, and the Owlbears are going to be great, whereas the Celestial Unicorns are only going to be good in green white, so those are kind of a gold card there. Well, there's a Feywild Trickster to go with the Farida. If we go blue-red here, or potentially like green-blue and red, if we do some splashing, that'll be a bit difficult, but red gives us access to treasure tokens, and green gives us access to You Happen on a Glade if we can pick any up. So a little interested in Feywild Trickster, also a little interested in Hobgoblin Captain, just because it's one of the best cards in this pack, just a fantastic aggressive card. At 3 power for only 2 mana, and potentially getting first strike. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll go with the Trickster here. It's just so fantastic in the same kind of deck that would use Farida. That's, I'll still leave ourselves open to that, because we're not even 100% going to play the Goblin, just because we're not certain that we'll be in red. So now we have Purple Worm and Hill Giant Herdgorger. Some great green late game cards. The Purple Worm potentially coming out for only 5 mana and being difficult to target with its ward effect is pretty fantastic, so I think I would take the Worm before I take the Herdgorger. If I don't take the Worm here, I guess we're taking like Precipitous Drop, a fine early game removal spell in black. Gives you a little value by venturing when you cast it. Well, the Tarrasque is a ton of mana, so it is a little difficult to cast, I'll be completely honest. But it is going to win pretty much any game in which it is cast. This format does tend to be a bit aggressive, or a bit quicker at the very least, so you're definitely not going to be able to cast this thing every game. So it's not as bombastically good as it looks, being a big old 10/10 mythic rare there, just because of how slow it is, but I think it's still good enough here to scoop and try to play some sort of ramp deck here. Maybe we end up in like green-blue. We do see another Farida. Not so sure about green-blue-red here. There's just not enough mana fixing to really justify firmly trying to go for 3 colors from the start of the draft. And at this point, with double Owlbear, Purple Worm, and the Tarrasque, I'm just 100% playing green. So if I'm going to play Faridas, I'll have to be green, blue, and red, which means I will have to take red treasure cards really highly, or like You Happen on a Glades really highly. I think I'm just going to take You Find the Path here. There aren't a lot of decks that would like to cast You Find the Path in this limited format, but if there was one that would like to use it, it'd be one with double Owlbear and the Tarrasque. We can play Find the Path on turn 3 to ramp us up into a 5-mana card on turn 4, such as the 2 Owlbears we have, or even the Purple Worm if something dies, and then we can also use it to slam down the Tarrasque later. So this pick is really easy. I'm just going to take You Happen on a Glade here. It's going to be good at helping us hit our land drops to get to our high mana cards by drawing 2 lands out of our deck, even if we aren't using it to mana fix. And with a gold off-color card here, it's possible that we do use it to mana fix. We could end up in just green-blue here, splashing in like a Farida with some blue dice rolling synergies with Feywild Trickster. So I definitely like that You Happen on a Glade here. And here I think I'll just take You Come to a River. I don't want to go so hard into green, blue, and red. I would rather just be splashing like a little bit of red to get the Faridas in here. I suppose technically we could take that Barbarian class and go really hard on dice rolling, but I kind of like just green ramp as the core of this deck. We have a lot of stuff going for that, and for the same reason, I'm going to take the ramp card over the dice rolling card here. Clever Conjurer, that can untap one of our lands and works exceptionally well with a Find the Path. That'll give us twice as much mana by untapping that than untapping any other land would. So I do like that quite a bit, and I think I'm just going to take Bull Strength here over the 4-mana 2/5. Do actually enjoy the Contact Other Plane here. It gives us a dice rolling card to go with our Feywild Trickster. And a little bit of card draw is always great. And Secret Door is going to be fine in this sort of deck. Nice little 0/4 blocker to get there turn 1. And of course later in the game, giving us a good mana sink. Alright, well, Yuan-Ti Malison doesn't exactly combo with everything we're doing so far, but it's still such a powerful card. I think it's okay to just take it, even if it's not particularly synergistic. Just by itself, it keeps venturing every turn. Yeah, I definitely like the Malison here. If this weren't in the pack, I'd be pretty happy to just scoop up another Feywild Trickster and start taking cards like Contact Other Plane really highly. But I do think the Malison is just a fantastic card. Doesn't make the most sense in terms of having like an early aggressive creature in the deck that's trying to get in unblockably for damage, but the part that I really like about it that does make a lot of sense to me is just getting that repeatable venturing. That way we can scry one, we can get a treasure token. These two abilities alone are fantastic for our deck, and then heading into the Fungi Cavern would be great as well. Just slowing down our opponent's early aggression to give us more time to hit our late game cards. Here I'm very happy to slam down an Owlbear, and judging by how the last pack went, we should be able to wheel a You Happen on a Glade here, so we can journey on yet again. This card is just going to be an A+ card for this sort of deck, making sure that we keep hitting land drops late into the game. And if we draw this late enough where we already have the mana to cast cards like Purple Worm and the Tarrasque, we do get value out of it anyway, just making camp, returning a permanent from our grave to hand and recasting it. Something like an Owlbear is great to recast from the graveyard, so pretty happy to get that there. So the Clever Conjurers tend to go late, as we've seen last pack, so as that is a good card for the deck, I am still going to pass it up here for something that won't go as late in the pack, like a Null Hunter or potentially like a Choose Your Weapon here, little combat trick and flying removal spell. I think I'd prefer the Null Hunter. I want to make sure that I have a good amount of like 1 and 2 mana blockers to keep me alive until I start slamming down a stack of Owlbears. So the Null Hunter not getting that pack tactics trigger particularly often in this deck, but it's still a 2 mana 2/2 to get on the board, get trading with stuff. I don't really like True Polymorph that much. It just makes one of your cards better. So for 6 mana, you're not even really going like up a card or anything. So not a massive fan of that. I do love me a Gretchen Titchwiller in these sort of decks. Having 4 toughness early on in the game can block a lot of 3/1s. And there are quite a bit of aggressive 3/1s in the format, in white and red in particular. And then later in the game gives you another great mana sink, drawing cards and putting lands onto the battlefield there. So I do love Gretchen here. There's an argument that we should just pass it for an Evolving Wilds or a Genie Windseer, and that argument would be that it would potentially wheel to us, but I don't really want to take that risk because I think it is just a lot better for our deck than either of those two. Although these are both definitely solid and they will absolutely make the cut. Alright, well, we are seeing a million Faradas if we do want to splash those in, but I'm already getting a little unsure about the first splash. We only have really 1 die rolling card in the whole deck to try to draw cards off of it with. Suppose we just go for like an Inspiring Bard here. I don't love Soul Knife Spy without some good ways to give it unblockable or get that damage in, either with a lot of cheap removal, bounce spell, something like that, or like Thieves' Tools, and we don't have any of that. Whereas Inspiring Bard, we are pretty empty on 4 mana cards, so this will give us a nice little 3/3 to trade off with some stuff that can gain some life when it comes into play, hopefully stem the bleeding and keep us alive. And we can definitely slam some more Find the Paths in this sort of green-blue ramp deck here. Alright, well, we do have a treasure chest here, which is interesting. We actually could make use of the treasure tokens if we roll a 2 to a 9 here, just to play a big card. So if we roll anything but a 1 or a 20, it's okay. And that card is also just incredibly random, so I don't generally love it. That being said, we're not missing a ton here. Yeah, we're just passing like another You Find the Path, and we already have 2 of them, and they're going to be going late. So we'll grab a treasure chest. I'm not 100% sure that I'll play it here, but it could be fun. Well, I think that Sylvan Shepherd works really well with our Feywild Trickster, giving us a repeatable way to roll a d20 every turn, so we can keep spitting out those 1/1 trump blockers. And I'm actually okay to take this over the Hail Giant Herdgorger just because we already have a good little bit of late game stuff, so we don't have too many extra slots for more late game cards. And if we see cards like the Tarrasque go insanely late, we'll probably be able to see some very high quality just massive late game cards wheeling pretty late to pick instead of the Herdgorger. I'm actually going to take the Clever Conjurer over the Feywild Trickster. As much as I love the Trickster, we just have a lot more in our deck that can benefit off of ramping than can benefit off of dice rolling. And I am going to take Happen on a Glade over Circle of Dreams Druid just because the color restrictive cost on this is so restrictive that by the time we cast this, we probably already have 5 or 6 mana, so it doesn't help us ramp that much. Alright, we do get a million Conjurers. I do like the Conjurer better than the Find the Path. Having to tap out on turn 3 to play a card that doesn't affect the board in any way is pretty rough against the quicker decks in the format. So just the fact that Clever Conjurer puts a 2/3 body on the board while ramping you up is quite nice in comparison to the Find the Path just ramping you up and venturing. Well, could definitely splash in a Skeletal Swarming. I think that's a better splash than the Faraday here. This is going to give us a 1/1 black skeleton every turn. And the skeletons get +1/+0 and trample for each other skeleton we control. And if a creature dies, we get 2 skeletons. Yeah, I do like the wizard class. I think it would be pretty solid in here, and I would love to see it wheel. I'd be very happy to see that. If that doesn't wheel, I'd take the Frost Giant, but I think both of these cards are definitely weaker than the Skeletal Swarming here. We have 3 Conjurers and 2 Find the Paths now, so I'm not so sure about scooping up a 4th Conjurer, but I am very happy to take a Skeletal Swarming here, and now we just throw a Swamp in the deck, use our You Happen on a Glades to splash that in instead of Faraday. And now we don't have a high enough creature count to want You Meet in a Tavern. Well, actually we do. We have 16 creatures. It's more creatures than I thought we did because we were taking cards like Find the Path and Treasure Chest here, just random non-creature stuff. But we're not really starting a brawl at any time. This kind of just helps us dig for the Tarrasque if we really want it. What else is in our colors? Just a Null Hunter. Underdark Basilisk, probably the better 2-drop for our color scheme. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 2-mana cards. Could definitely use 1 or 2 more. I could go with a Basilisk here, or You Meet in a Tavern. Either one seems solid to me. I'm just going to scoop up the Basilisk. Alright, we are very low on removal, so I think we have to scoop up a Charmed Sleep here. We don't have any removal whatsoever in the deck. We just have You Come to a River that can bounce an opposing card. The Charmed Sleep can permanently keep something tapped, although it does die to cards like Baleful Beholder and Dawnbringer Cleric. There is main deck enchantment hate in the format, as well as you find a Cursed Idol in green. So Charmed Sleep, one of my least favorite removal spells in the format, just because it's a bit slow and it dies to enchantment removal, but sometimes you gotta take the removal you can get, and you know, you can never have too many Owlbears. Really can't ever have too many Owlbears, especially when you have 5 3-mana cards that let you ramp up from 3 mana on turn 3 to 5 mana on turn 4. Getting a turn 4 Owlbear is one heck of a drug, so triple Clever Conjurer, double Find the Path to hit those Owlbears more consistently is going to be absolutely fantastic. So I do like that quite a bit. Intrepid Outlander is quite fun and a very good rate for a 2-mana card, but I'm just going to always take Owlbears when I see them. Now, I kind of like just another Secret Door here, another early blocker. Don't know how likely I am to play it, but I'm definitely not playing Soul Knife Spy because our 3-mana spot is already going to get filled up with a bunch of cards that make a lot more sense in our strategy, like the Conjurers and Find the Paths, the Charmed Sleep, stuff like that. We just don't have a lot of room there at 3 mana. I guess we could take a Wild Shape for a random little combat trick, but a deck that's just trying to play bigger creatures than your opponent isn't really a deck that's going to make a lot of use out of any combat tricks. And definitely not going to make use out of equipment either. So I'll just take the Secret Door there. And here we do get another Gretchen. Pretty happy to take that over the Null Hunter. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is, I think, impossible to wheel a card here. So we'll just take Gretchen and get that guaranteed. Although the Null Hunter would be definitely fine. I think those are definitely the 2 best cards in the pack for us. Just good 2-drop creatures. Well, here is You Find a Cursed Idol, which does give us some main deckable artifact enchantment hate so that we don't die to, like, Hand of Vecna type cards, or classes as often. I like it even just for the sideboard here. I believe that the draft challenges are best 2 out of 3 games, so it is nice to be thinking about grabbing some cards for your sideboard. And choose your weapon. Giving us some flying hate for the sideboard seems fine too. We've pretty much got a whole deck here, so we can just focus on grabbing some good sideboard cards now, although we did wheel the wizard class, which I'm very happy about. Fantastic draw spell here. It's a draw spell on turn 3, as well as a card that can take over the late game, just making your creatures consistently larger and larger. We do wheel the You Meet in a Tavern as well, which could also be good in this deck with just the quality of creatures we have, being able to dig for our better creatures, looking through the top 5 for them. Actually seems pretty good, you know, scooping up an Owlbear or 2, as well as potentially getting closer to the Tarask seems pretty nice. Already got plenty of 2-mana cards. I'll just take another Direwolf Prowler, but I don't know if I'll play that either. I actually probably would play the 4th Conjurer over the 2nd You Meet in a Tavern, so I'll take that. And here we are. We get to make a lot of cuts to this deck before we play it. So this is going to be a spicy green-blue ramp deck here. All right. I think Treasure Chest is a little too inconsistent for my blood. We're not that aggressive for Bull Strength, although it is still pretty solid. We need to cut 11 cards here. We've got 22 creatures. I'd like to cut like 4 creatures. Maybe we just get the Secret Doors out of here. Feywild Trickster doesn't make the most sense, nor does the Sylvan Shepherd. We just didn't get enough dice rolling for Feywild Trickster to really work, and Sylvan Shepherd was basically only in there for the Feywild Trickster. I like all the 2-drops, except maybe the Pixie Guide, but this is still like a 1/3, which blocks pretty well, and it blocks flyers. Got 5 2-mana cards even without it, so I guess that's kind of okay. 5 2-mana cards plus like a You Come to a River to bounce something should be pretty decent at keeping us alive in the early game. If I scoop all that out, we still need to cut 5 more cards, and we're a 16-creature deck now. So definitely don't want to cut any more creatures if I want to run You Meet in a Tavern. The top 5 cards of your deck in a 40-card deck, that's 1/8 of your deck. And 16, what is that? That's definitely less than half. I don't know what percentage of our deck is creatures. I don't know what percentage 16 of 40 is. I'm just not that good at math. All right, 3 more cards to cut here. I think it's definitely enough that we'll consistently hit at least 1 creature on You Meet in a Tavern. But is it enough to hit 2? Not often. We also have just Contact Other Plane to guarantee draw a couple cards here. Wizard class as well for card draw. We have a bit of card draw without You Meet in a Tavern. And I think we're very rarely going to be starting a brawl, so we're not really getting any value out of the modal nature of the card. Could definitely see cutting that, and potentially just cutting like the Find the Paths. We have 4 copies of Clever Conjurer, so we already have 4 cards that are ramping us up into our bigger spells. We have 2 cards making sure that we consistently hit land drops even into the late game, helping cast the Tarask and Purple Worm. I think we've got enough going for us to help hit these high mana cards. Even like 4 Owlbear, the fact that the Owlbears just draw a card every time we play them lets us dig for more lands. Yeah, we don't have a million expensive cards, just a Purple Worm, Tarask, and the main thing that we're really struggling to hit, that we want to consistently hit, is just the pile of Owlbears. We want to always be able to cast these turn 4, or turn 5. Turn 4 ideally with all the Conjurers. Yeah, I think we can definitely cut Find the Paths. We just don't have that much that we're ramping into. We can just use our little ramp dorks like Clever Conjurers again to consistently hit Owlbears by turn 5 at the latest. Without any dedicated ramp, hitting 5 mana on turn 5 isn't something that's going to happen every game. Hopefully that's something that happens almost every game for us, because that is going to be a big deal. Starting the Owlbear chain. Alright. So with double You Happen on a Glade, how many swamps do I really need here? Do I really need triple swamp? I feel as if I don't. But I could still see running like 2. How are our colors looking? 14 green, 11 blue, and 1 black. So just throw in 1 more forest here for the 1 swamp. I could also cut another swamp, throw in another island. Go with a nice 8 islands, 8 forests there. That could be okay, because I could definitely see situations where we need to cast this Charmed Sleep as early as possible, so we need to hit double blue as early as possible. It's a little more difficult to do on 7 islands than 8 islands. We're definitely hoping that our creatures just outsize whatever our opponent's doing, because wow, we are low on removal. We just did not see a lot in this draft pod. I do think green and blue were pretty open in general, but the one other green or blue drafter at the table was just slamming down removal like nobody's business. I think this is fine. I think I like it as is. I don't love the idea of needing to hit You Happen on a Glade to grab a black source for swarming. So I like having like the 2 instead of just the 1. Because I could definitely see situations where... Actually, no. No. I should probably cut 1 more swamp, put in another island. What I was thinking was, theoretically, there'd be situations where we hit You Happen on a Glade and we just really need double green for like Owlbear. But if that ever happens, we already have 1 green if we're casting You Happen on a Glade, so we just grab 1 forest, 1 swamp. So we should be able to grab a swamp every single time we cast this card. I guess the only situation where we wouldn't be able to grab a swamp is if we specifically have Charmed Sleep in hand and only forests, which seems like a very, very rare situation, especially if we have 8 islands in the deck. But yeah, in that position, we would Journey On, grab double island. But that should be a major rarity here. Vast majority of the time. We can just grab our second island in a swamp or our second forest in a swamp. Alright. I like the deck here. Gonna be a nice, fun green-blue ramp deck for the Forgotten Realms Draft Challenge here. So we'll see how it does. I'm definitely pretty excited that we've ended up in green-blue here, because it is basically the least popular strategy in the draft format. Arguably the weakest one. But as all draft formats are, the format can be pretty self-correcting to where if something is pretty open in your draft pod, it's going to be powerful, even if it's the weakest strategy. My biggest concern with this deck by far is the lack of removal. Alright, and that is one of the strongest bomb rares in the format. Terrifying card to see turn 1. Paladin class it is from our opponent. This can be an Anthem effect, giving their whole field +1/+1, and later on becoming even more brutal, giving their attacking creatures +1/+1 double strike. Very, very difficult card to survive. Luckily, we do have a 0/4 to block the Null Hunter, even if it becomes a 3/3 to the Paladin class here. So I'm just going to cast another Null Hunter here. I could hold on to You Come to a River to bounce their Null Hunter, but that's not going to be necessary here unless they kill Gretchen and buff the Null Hunter. If they kill Gretchen, then I'll trade Null Hunters with them. But I don't think that'll happen. Excuse me. Don't think that'll happen here. Six cards in hand and 2 mana up for our opponent. If they hit a land, they can just level up the Paladin class to make Null Hunter a 3/3. They don't have a great attack if they do that, so I could see why they wouldn't want to. If they have any other creature here, the board can go wide, and then they get even more value from giving the whole field +1/+1. cards like Paladin class are definitely the reasons that even in best of 3, sometimes it's good to just throw cards like you find a Cursed Idol into your main deck so that you have a way to blow these cards up if they come up. Because luckily, with all the modal cards in the format, there are quite a few cards that can randomly blow up an enchantment and still do something if you're not playing against an enchantment. And that is what makes them main deckable. Even if they are mediocre cards when your opponent isn't playing an artifact or enchantment, they do something. So they're way more main deckable than the old artifact enchantment hate used to be in Limited, like Naturalize and stuff. Where it was like, well, you'd never want to draw that in a game where your opponent isn't playing artifacts or enchantments. Looks like our opponent might be having some connection issues here, unfortunately. If they do get back into the game, I'm actually really excited in how this game potentially goes. So I really do hope that they can return here, because we did get really lucky and hit our 4th mana for Gretchen, so we can start drawing cards and potentially placing lands out there. So we potentially do get to this Owlbear, and if we get to this Owlbear, that draws us a card, helps us get to this Purple Worm. This looks like it'll be a fun game to try to fight through a Paladin class. Of course, that is under the assumption that they were stuck on 2 mana there and didn't just DC on turn 2 immediately and just had more lands in hand. But theoretically, if this was a game where they do have the Paladin class and the 2-drop, but they're stuck on 2 mana, that might give us the time to start ramping into big stuff, and then we actually have a game here of player playing big stuff trying to survive the Paladin class versus player a little stuck on mana trying to bash in through it. Unfortunately, though, it looks like we may not have a game here. They might just be completely DC'd, in which case they may as well have had the 3rd land turn 3. Well, that is definitely pretty unfortunate for our opponent. I guess we will get the 2-0 to start off, get a free win for a player draft token. It is a win, so we can't be too bummed about that, but it is always a bummer to see anybody lose to connection issues or digital issues, anything like that. We only saw 2 cards of our opponent's deck, a Paladin class and a Null Hunter, but those are some very good cards. So I definitely wish them luck in the future rounds. I am sure they will do quite well. So here we are in match 2. Our opponent starts with a Neverwinter Dryad, not a card I'm a huge fan of, even in like the green-blue ramp deck here. But they are the green-black deck. The green-black deck cares about creatures dying at specific times, so even just having creatures that could sacrifice themselves whenever you want can be interesting. So our opponent's really ramping. They use the Neverwinter Dryad to grab the 3rd land, play their 4th land on turn 3, and cast nothing. So they are really ramping there. If they're not even casting anything for 4 mana, they have a hand with nothing till turn 5 at least. Alright, makes sense, some Owlbears. I expect this game might be kind of funny here, where we just start slamming down Owlbears at each other. How many Owlbears will we see this game from both players? So far, 2 Owlbears, but I'm about to cast another next turn. And I wouldn't be surprised if our opponent does as well. Well, this is suspicious. I'll just not block it. I can crack back here and try to race. Hill Giant Herdgorger is the play. Alright, well that's pretty terrifying, but we can just hold back our 1-2 Death Touch to block that. Unfortunately, we can't crack back now because our 4-4 can't attack into a 7-6. So they do have the board very well controlled here. In that case, I don't know if I even want to slam down an Owlbear here. I kind of want to cast our unblockable Malison so we can keep hitting them for damage and getting some value that way throughout this game. Yeah. But I guess I could attack in if I Inspiring Bard, give the Owlbear +2/+2, but I don't really see the need to get that aggressive here. I think we have a pretty great late game. That being said, our opponent has nothing but big cards in their hand, so they likely have a great late game too. The power in our late game is just the power of value, of card draw all over the place. Interesting. Okay, they go for the kill on the Death Toucher. They've got to have some kind of combat trick if they go for that, because we could just double block here. Oh, I could get blown out here, but I mean, either way, I'm taking a 2-for-1 trade. I'm either 2-for-1ing myself into their combat trick. I get rid of their combat trick at the price of 2 of my cards, or I get rid of their hill drain at the price of 2 of my cards. But I think I'm able to make those kind of trades because I'm going to draw a card when I cast this Owlbear. I'm going to use You Happen on Glade to pick up another Owlbear, draw a card when I play that Owlbear. We have a lot of value coming that way. We have Venturing consistently here. Let's just see what happens. I can see a Feign Death here to make that an 8-7. Or they're just getting aggro. Seems good too. Alright, just getting aggro. I'm actually very happy with that then, if they were just wanting to be aggressive there. So we'll attack with the Malison. We're going to go ahead and scry here. Get that land out of here. We're doing quite well on mana. And now we can cast our Owlbear and pass the turn. We have a Clever Conjurer to trade with their 4-2 and an Owlbear to trade with their 4-4. And there's the Tarask coming up. Alright, maybe I did need that land because we are 2 mana away from that. We have 3 green and 3 more, plus Clever Conjurer's ability to untap one of our lands. But maybe we could just use You Happen on a Glade to grab some lands if we don't end up drawing any. Ooh, the Ranger's Longbow actually putting in a lot of work here. That is going to force me into a double block there to where I take 4 damage here. But I do still get the 1-for-1 trade our Owlbear for their Owlbear, which is pretty good. Alright, we get to bounce a creature here. That gives us more time to hit the mana we need for Tarask. We're only green 1, 2, 3, 4. We're only 2 mana away, so we use Malison to get a treasure token here, and we're only 1 mana away. So I'd like just using this to slow them down, and hopefully we don't even need to grab a land from Happen on a Glade. That being said, we do have 7 mana this turn if I use Conjurer to untap. So we could just cast You Happen on a Glade. Could guarantee that we cast the Tarask, because yeah, if we cast the Tarask, we pretty much win on the spot, right? So I should do everything I can to guarantee that I'm casting the Tarask here. So that would be bounce the Circle of the Moon Druid and cast You Happen on a Glade. I could also cast Inspiring Bard, gain some life, untap a land, and then cast You Happen on a Glade. But if I do that, I don't get to hold up You Come to a River to bounce the Circle of the Moon Druid, in which case I'll probably have to chump block, or else I'll take like 6, which seems very bad. Yeah, I don't want to go for a chump block here. I think I just pass turn, hold up our instance. There's an Owlbear of theirs. What are we hitting next turn? We get to give something -4, -0, or drain them for a life. This is such a rough decision, because we're only 1 mana away from the Tarask. And if we use You Happen on a Glade to grab the next mana we need for the Tarask, then we won't be able to draw another card out of it, which is losing us some value in the long run, which is not ideal. In a matchup where both players have just a million Owlbears, all the value we can get is probably pretty important. That being said, if I don't hit the Tarask next turn, I'm pretty dead. Because if I don't hit Tarask next turn, I play an Inspiring Bard and I have 3 chump blockers, but they've got like a big Trampler, I'm at 7. We're in a really bad position if we don't hit Tarask next turn. I guess we're not technically dead, but we're not having a great time. Alright, so we cast the Tarask here, kill the 4-4. We need to chump block Circle of the Moon Druid here. The Tarask does have Ward 10, so it's impossible for them to kill it with a removal spell. They'll need to get a little Death Toucher. Saving my chump blocker here because I do not want to die to a combat trick. Now if I die to a combat trick plus removal spell. Oh good lord, that is incredibly bad. It's not quite lethal. Not quite lethal by itself. And if they don't kill us here, Tarrasque kills them next turn. Well, if they have that and a combat trick to kill me here, I think I just accept that. Right? Like, we're stopping 1 damage by blocking with the Malison. So then we would survive a +3/+3 combat trick. That's it. I would rather hold the Malison so it can chump block something later, because it can stop a lot more than 1 damage if it blocks something like the Circle of the Moon Druid. They get to exile a ton of cards here, gain a bunch of life here, make that even bigger, but we still get to kill it with Tarrasque. I guess, because it is fighting, they can trade. Yeah, this fights Froghemoth. It's taken 7 damage, so then it just trades down into the Werewolf or the Circle of the Moon Druid. Okay, so they have a 4/5 and a 3/3 here. If we buff Tarrasque with +2/+2, then it's a 12/12. It fights with Froghemoth and it turns into a 5 toughness. At 5 toughness, they have to double block to kill it. At 5 toughness left over, they have to double block to kill it. So we just buff it with +2/+2 here. And then we untap it so that we're super safe. Seems pretty good to me. Yep, 5 toughness against a 4 power and 3 power creature. They can go for the double block, but then they're out of creatures here. We finish them off with the rest of the squad. Alright, see what they top deck here. Now we'll close out the game. The Tarrasque absolutely coming in clutch there at the end. So what did we see there? We did see a powerful equipment. I mean, not particularly powerful, but still an equipment in the late game, always going to do a lot of work. So we could throw in the Cursed Idol to destroy that equipment. Other than that, Bull Strength actually would probably help in this matchup, because we have a lot of the same creatures as they do, like just owlbears fighting each other all the time. So like in a back and forth game where we're slapping them with owlbears, they're slapping us with owlbears, then all of a sudden one of our owlbears untaps and kills one of theirs. That could be really good. We also saw basically no combat tricks from them, so if we can have our own combat tricks, we can probably win combat very often anytime that we're casting a combat trick. So I like Bull Strength here. I like the Cursed Idol. What do I not like in this matchup? That's always the problem when it comes to cutting stuff. You Come to a River isn't actually fantastic. It did help us survive a little bit there, but they do have a lot of good enter the battlefield effects that it is quite bad against. So it's almost never bouncing like their best creatures, because their best creatures seem to be their 4/4 trampling owlbears and stuff, or their trample haster. That'll just have haste anyway, so it doesn't seem insane here. And one more cut to go. We could cut like one of our Gretchens maybe. But I do like Gretchen. Could cut. I do like Charmed Sleep here. We didn't see any artifact or enchantment hate in their main deck, and we didn't play any artifacts or enchantments against them, so I don't think they would side any in. So I don't see any reason to cut Charmed Sleep. I honestly don't really know what the next cut is. Maybe I just don't throw in the Bull Strength. Like, it seems fun and probably good here, but the only thing that's definitely good here is you find a Cursed Idol. I guess all that really does is blow up the one equipment we saw, right? And that equipment wasn't exactly the end of us or anything. You know what? I'm actually going to be a little weird here. We're going to throw in the combat trick, but not the equipment destroying spell. Because I don't know, I feel like there were more positions where just the Bull Strength untap an owlbear would have been good than the blowing up the equipment would have been. Alright, well this is a bit sketchy. We definitely want to hit a blue source, and we want to hit it pretty soon. But we do have a Null Hunter to trade off in the early game. If we hit a blue source, a Wizard class, and contact other plane as multiple multiple draw spells here is really good. That can help us draw into all the mana that we need to eventually cast Tarask to try to just end the game the same way here. I'm going to keep this hand, but it is definitely risky. And I am not a fan of the turn 2 Werewolf Pack Leader here. A 2-mana 3/3, always terrifying, but especially when it is cast on turn 2. And there's the Ranger's Longbow again. Maybe I will get the mega punished for not throwing in the equipment removal here. Only gives 1 more toughness though, so even if they slap that onto the Werewolf Pack Leader here, we can still untap and trade. Which is absolutely what I'm going to do here, because I'm just trying to survive long enough to hit my blue source. And this stops them from drawing cards off that pack leader. Well, I suppose we don't need to hit a blue source if we just draw a forest every turn this game, because then we can cast Owlbear into Tarask later. Alright. I mean, it works. It works. The Ranger's Longbow does make their Owlbear big enough to get through mine, though, which is not ideal. I think, all things said and done, though, we did draw the 1 card that we sided into. And Bull's Strength, I think, probably did more work here than blowing up the Rangers class would have in the long run. That being said, I'm pretty sure we're out of it at this point. I don't think we have time to draw 3 more forests to get the Tarask down. Yeah, that was just not a game there, unfortunately. Kept a bit of a greedy hand. It definitely got punished as much as we could have. I suppose we could have drawn no lands. That would have definitely been worse. So just got punished an average amount. Yeah, I like the Bull's Strength, but also having their Owlbear be 5 toughness against our 4 toughness one was a big deal. But it's also only a massive deal because we could only play 1 creature. Like in any normal game, we would just have a Clever Conjurer out like we did last time. That was the main thing making me think that their equipment isn't that big of a deal. It only adds like 1 toughness, so last time they used it in the first game, like if they had an Owlbear and they equipped their Owlbear to make it beat ours, we could just block with an Owlbear and a Clever Conjurer, and they could still only kill 1 of our 2 creatures. So we would like still just 1-for-1 trade there. I don't know, we'll try 1 game of each. The other thing about the Cursed Idol is it does give us a treasure token, so if we get into a mana situation like we did that game, we can use the treasure token to cast at least 1 of our blue cards, which would have been really good to cast like Contact Other Plane there and potentially draw more blue sources off of that. So it's not just the artifact enchantment removal that it is there for. Well, here we have a Clever Conjurer turn 3. If we hit a land, we have a Charmed Sleep to slow our opponent down. But, I mean, judging by how last game went, I think I should probably mulligan here, especially because green is our more important color than blue. Alright, this we can definitely work with. I think I have to throw the Tarask on the bottom. And while Tarask is my biggest game ender, so it is sad to do that, I do have 2 You Happen on a Glade that I can use to shuffle our library, which gives us the chance to actually draw into the Tarask later. There's a Wizard class. That won't be great if I hit another land here. I suppose I kind of like just scrying here to guarantee a land drop so we can play Conjurer, get a treasure token. Yeah, play a land drop, play Conjurer, get a treasure token that guarantees an Owlbear next turn. That seems like a pretty big deal here, to the point where I am, again, just not going to blow up their equipment. Alright, we do hit the land drop that we need, which is perfect. Not gonna pop this treasure token to put a Wizard class out. There's Werewolf Pack Leader back at it again. Not a good deal for us. We may have to just Basilisk here. I guess we don't have to. They have 2 mana. They'll have 3 mana next turn. They don't have the mana to buff it or anything. We could just take 3, and then when we get an Owlbear out, it's big enough to trade into that at the very least, even if they spend the 4 mana on the ability. Alright, so I'm very glad I didn't pop this treasure token because we're going to need it here to cast our Owlbear. And then hopefully the Owlbear can get us that next land. We do have some 2-drops in hand, so we don't need land that desperately. But it would be helpful for this wizard class to go off, start drawing us some cards to hit some more plays later on. And then if we do get to level 3, start making our cards bigger and bigger, which will be very nice. So a Clattering Skeletons from our opponent. 4/3, when it dies, they venture into the dungeon. With these two in conjunction, if they attack with both, they will draw a card from the pack tactics. So I could see a double attack and then buff the Werewolf Pack Leader into a 5/3 there. Definitely like playing the Basilisk for Death Touch here. I think I'll be drawing some cards and then playing Basilisk for Death Touch. Alright. And pass the turn. They send in just the skeletons here. Don't love losing our Death Toucher. We know they have Owlbears and Froghemoth Trample Hasters and stuff. Is it worse to lose the Owlbear than it is to lose the Death Toucher? I think it's worse to lose the Owlbear. I think I trade the Death Toucher here, even though they could play bigger cards now. Because next turn we can afford to level up the Wizard class to level 3 and cast our Malison. And then we can potentially just keep putting counters on our Owlbear till it is more than big enough to block all their stuff. Well, there's their Owlbear. We do hit the land to be able to level up Wizard class and play the Malison. If we do that, we don't get to block with Conjure, but Conjure's already not doing so hot in terms of blocks. What do we hit next turn? We get a treasure token or a 1/1. Alright, we're not doing a lot venturing with Malison next turn. I'm going to go ahead and just level up this Wizard class just because the Conjure is not really getting involved in blocks this turn. Alright, they spend 4 to buff the Pack Leader, but I would much rather kill that than let them keep drawing a card every single time they attack. Well, that's pretty horrible. There is the combat trick. They did have a combat trick after all. Happen on a Glade here. We can pick up our... pick up our Owlbear to cast it here. 4, 5, 6. Oh, we actually need 1 more mana to do that. I should have put the counter on the Malison. That was a bit of a punt there. I guess when we play the Owlbear, we do get a counter because we draw a card. So I put it on the Conjurer because then I'm like, well, it can block the Pack Leader and force them to buff it if they want to trade. But it's going to be tapped here because we kind of need to just cast an Owlbear. I guess there's definitely an argument for the Death Toucher, but just play a 5/5 Owlbear here. Or a 3/2 Malison. Yeah, I think having a 3/2 Malison and a 5/5 Owlbear would definitely be better than a 3/4 tapped Conjurer. So definitely a punt here. But hopefully we can make do with just a 5/5 Owlbear. In which case I think I attack with the Malison and just get a chump blocker. Because Malison can't block and do anything good here. So let's get deeper into the dungeon, get closer to maybe drawing a card off of it. Definitely don't need the treasure token. We have enough mana to even cast a Tarask at this point. Alright, Owlbear's a 6/5. We'll trade there. Chump there. We're at 13 here. I mean, I could stop them from drawing cards by trading with the Pack Leader instead. It's definitely good. Forces them to spend all their mana into that as well, which means they don't play any other big stuff on us. We take 6. We go to 7. Kind kind of taking a lot either way if they spend the mana to pump the pack leader. Because like if I block there and then they pump pack leader, then we get trampled over. Ooh, this is a painful position to be in. Next turn, we just get a +1/+1 counter from the Maleficent. We could get a counter on the Conjurer, make it a 4/5, get another counter, make it a 5/6. We make it a 5/6 and it's big enough to block pack leader. So I think we make the trade here and hope to make our Conjurer a 5/6 so we can hold off the pack leader with that. I don't think we go for the chump block here because they can just get trample anyway. Alright, yeah, now we have a good chump blocker to throw on the Circle of the Moon Druid. Send that in, get another counter on the Conjurer. Now we can block that pack leader, although I guess they do get to throw a Ranger's Longbow on it. If they throw a Longbow on it and spend 4, then they can trade into the Conjurer. Ooh, I'm so happy with that if they don't have a combat trick here. Alright. Manticore. That'll do it. That'll clear out the Conjurer there. And that is just not what we want to see to end this game. We could make a chump block here. If we don't make a chump block, we take 8 damage. Do I just draw a card here? I'm either drawing a card or stopping 6 damage off a chump block here. I feel like it's better to just draw a card and accept that we lose to a combat trick or another equipment. We go to 1 life if I don't chump block. Yeah, I feel like I draw a card and we're just hoping for something insane. And we can't draw the Tarrasque because it's at the bottom of our deck. We need to draw another Happen on a Glade to hit that. I think we need to just draw like a million Owlbears, but now we need a Charmed Sleep as well to get rid of the Manticore. Conjurer. We can only go into floor 1. We can gain a life, scry 1, or have each player lose a life. Well, yeah, this is not going to do it for us. We are very dead here in round 2. Alright, so there is 1 loss, and it is only 2 losses until you're out here. As I've said before, a very competitive format in that sense. But I guess thanks to connection issues in round 1, we're getting at least 1 player draft token out of this. We're not going to be leaving it empty-handed no matter what happens here. But in these, it is always going to be the absolute best to get a 3-win run. That is where it's really ideal. This is really rough here. Yeah, this is not keepable either. We're going to have to mull to 5. This is actually a pretty good for a 5-land hand. Gretchen into Conjurer here. We just get rid of 2 lands. And I've got 4 Owlbears in the deck and only 1 Charmed Sleep, so I'm going to get rid of double Island so we can keep double green. Alright. Our opponent did have a mulligan to 6. So at least we're not the only one mulliganing a bit here. We do draw a Yancy Malison to play turn 2, which is fantastic. Now we can just start venturing, scrying, hopefully getting a little bit of value that way to make up for lost value in the mulligan. Our opponent drops an Evolving Wild, sacks for a swamp, and we are playing against Black-Red here with turn 2 Kalane, probably the best 2-drop in the color pair. Ooh, we've got a Skeletal Swarming coming up now. So with that Kalane, any creatures they play later on are going to be even bigger and scarier. With Skeletal Swarming in hand, we might want to just drop Conjurer. We're not going to have the mana to start throwing into Gretchen's Mana Sink ability. And a 2/3 is going to block as well as a 0/4 here anyway. Let's just get this Malison going in, scry, see what we have on top, see if it's a black source. Even if it isn't, we can use the Malison to get a treasure token when we head into the mine tunnels next turn. So we know we get to cast a Skeletal Swarming next turn, which will be beautiful. Don't really need the blue source here. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, Conjure to untap our 4th mana, plus treasure token for the 5th. Yeah, we have enough mana to cast Swarming even if we don't have a land on top, so I kind of like throwing that on the bottom. And drop down a Clever Conjurer here. Improvised weaponry to get rid of the Malice, and that is unfortunate. That will stop us from casting the Skeletal Swarming here. And it'll stop us from getting the treasure token, so we can't cast Owlbear either, which is rough. But that would stop us from casting the Swarming, whether or not we left the land on top of the deck. So it only really hinders us because of the card that we didn't know was coming. So we'll drop a Gretchen here, and if nothing else, next turn we can start drawing cards off of Gretchen at the very least. And with a 0/4 blocker, we may as well hit in for 2 here. Our opponent has 4 mana naturally, plus 2 from treasures, so they could cast 6 drops like an Earthshaker Elemental. They go for a Valor Singer here, spending 2 treasures, meaning that is going to be a 4/5. That gives a creature +1/+0 during their combat. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Bounce spells are quite good against our opponent's deck. I'm definitely not going to cut the bounce spell in this matchup. We're going to use that on Valor Singer for sure. For now, though, what do? I feel like I want to wait until combat here. But if I do it right now, I do get to hit them for 2. Is it better to just hit them for 2 damage or wait till their turn so they might expend some more resources heading into combat? I doubt they will, but it's always possible. Yeah, I suppose they're not particularly likely to play a really big equipment and slap it on a Valor Singer and then go to combat. So we might as well bounce it right now to get 2 more damage in here. Get guaranteed value by getting some guaranteed damage in rather than having our fingers crossed and hoping that they are trying to throw more equipment or something on it. Alright, there's the Owlbear mana. Happy to see that. Now we'll have a 4/4 to block their potential 3/3. So we will have the best creature on board until they kill it, which is definitely possible in black-red. Ooh, there's You Happen on a Glade. We can grab an island and a swamp off of that. That'll give us the mana we need for Skeletal Swarming, as well as get us close to a Tarask if we ever draw into that. So very nice draw here. And alternatively, if we just naturally draw the swamp, then I could definitely see an argument for just holding this to bring back an Owlbear at some point. They only have 3 toughness here, and they're at 14 life, so I think we stay aggressive probably and send the Owlbear in. Like, we take 3 on the crackback, but we deal 4 on the attack. Let them do whatever kind of combat tricks and stuff they have. We can at least get those out of the way. Alright, no combat trick. Happy to see that. Grab Swamp Island here, play Swamp. Yeah, I don't see a reason to wait until their turn here, when I can make sure that I have a black mana and double blue out by playing the land right now. Just in case I draw into Charmed Sleep. I don't think I have enough mana to cast Swarming and Charmed Sleep next turn, but just on the off chance that I would. Yeah, I don't. I'm 1 mana off from that. 5 plus 1, 2. I would need 5 plus 3 to cast both. Alright. Skeletal Swarming and go. Beginning of your end step, get a 1/1 skeleton. If a creature died, get 2 instead. Do I attack with Owlbear first, and then I might get 2 of them? It's definitely not actually bad for us if Owlbear dies here. Because what they could triple block to kill it. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 power there. If they triple block, we only get to kill 1 creature. That's actually not great. We kill Valor Singer, but then we kill Valor Singer. They're stuck with a 1-2 and a 1-3. We get 2 2-1 skeletons. All in all, I actually think, yeah, that is fine for us. Trade the Owlbear down, but then Skeletal Swarming's even more active. And I would like to kill Valor Singer over anything else here. And Gretchen's going to be very nice this game. They're going to feign death on it. Yeah, that's actually pretty bad. That will make this attack a good bit worse. But I'm still not super worried. We're at 20 here. So, I feel like ideally here they have to just hold back. They can block the skeletons by blocking one with a 1-3 and one with a 3-4. So, if nothing else, Skeletal Swarming kind of keeps them off of our backs, keeps them from attacking us here. And by keeping them from attacking us or getting particularly aggressive here, we get to just start going off with Gretchen's ability, just start repeatedly drawing off of her. So, while Skeletal Swarming isn't really going to be killing them or anything, just holding them off from attacking us is pretty good. And I'm going to use this ability right now in case I draw something that matters during combat here. I didn't, just some creatures. So we'll go into combat here. Those are forced to attack. And there's going to be some easy blocks for our opponent. Now, yeah, it's probably better to get these creatures out than it is to draw another card here, because I do have a kind of scary board. All right, see if Gretchen can't take this game away for us. Just make sure we're drawing like our whole deck here, and we draw into an Owlbear, which is beautiful. And a purple worm here. With these double conjures, we can definitely cast that. We can even pack tactics with the Null Hunter, but if I do that, it dies to Valor Singer, so it's not a great attack right now. All right. Send out the purple worm. Next turn, we're attacking with a purple worm, an Owlbear, a Null Hunter, and 2 skeletons. And sure, they could kill the Null Hunter if they block it with the 3-4, but then the other stuff's getting in. We've got a huge attack next turn. Very happy to just roll with. Herald coming in as a 5-5 is going to make it definitely worse. 5-5, now they get to eat up the Owlbear as well. But the Skeletal Swarming gets to go off here. We're still drawing cards off Gretchen. Let's draw some cards pre-combat as usual. Make sure we still have stuff to keep dumping out here after all this combat. Okay, so I sent in the 8-7, they block with the 1-3. I sent in the 4-4, they block with the 5-5. I sent in the 3-3, they block with the 3-4. The 2-1s, they block with a 3-3. And a 1-3. We actually still don't have great attacks there. Outside of the purple worm. The purple worm they don't have a good block on. In order to kill it, they have to block it with 7 power. It has 8. I guess they could double block with Herald and Valor Singer, but if they double block with Herald and Valor Singer, then they can't block the 3-3 with the 3-4. I feel like Purple Worm only gets in for a good attack if we send in fodder alongside it. This could definitely be wrong, but I think by sending all this in, it means Purple Worm actually gets to accomplish some good stuff here. Yeah, so they eat those, but now Purple Worm just has free reign here. Ooh, Purple Worm kills Kalain of all things. Super happy to see that. And dump out a Conjurer. At 20 life here, I'm not particularly scared about leaving a ton of blockers up, so I'm just gonna get the mana to draw another card here. We'll just leave the 2 blockers back. If we didn't have Gretchen out, I absolutely wouldn't have made that attack that I made last turn, because then I would be in a position where I am really worried about losing any creatures. But with Gretchen out, I think I just want to do everything I can to start chipping away at their creatures, even if it costs me some of mine. They send in with the Herald here, so now if they want to kill Purple Worm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they have to block with almost everything. They could block there, and there, and I kill 2 of those. We get at least a 2-for-1 trade there. Alright, take 6. And the Herald has a mana sink to drain us for 2 life. They can only do that once per turn right now. They have 9 mana. Alright, Gretchen. What do we got? Alright, get that out here. 18 cards left. Inspiring Bard. Do I want to buff a Purple Worm? Purple Worm already, if they're going to kill Purple Worm, I kill 2 of their cards. Because the only way they kill Purple Worm is if they block with 7 power. The only way to block with 7 power is to block with 3 things. They could block with a 3-4, 3-3, and a 1-3. And then I could only kill 2 of those. I think I just want to buff a skeleton here, so that a skeleton gets in for some work. Because now one of these skeletons trades with something, at like the least. Ooh, happen on a Glade to bring something back from my grave. Beautiful. Now, whatever happens to Purple Worm is fine and dandy. Alright, so one of the skeletons does accomplish some work, killing one of their creatures. Purple Worm kills one of their creatures. Deadly Dispute, so they can draw cards off of that one at least. But that attack looks real good for us. Untap a land here so that I can happen on a Glade, but I do like leaving the rest as blockers at this point, because I'm not going to spend the 4 mana to draw a card here. Alright, they go for the drain with the Herald. We lose 2 life down to 12. They have 3 cards in their hand now thanks to that Deadly Dispute. And a Goblin Morningstar is the play. That's actually pretty terrifying, giving Trample. And +1/+0 here. Also gives them another chump blocker here. So I guess they throw it onto the Herald. It's whatever. If they attack with something, I'm just going to triple block straight up. I don't need any of these conjures anymore. I got plenty mana at this point. They buff the Valor Singer. So they're going for an attack with the Valor Singer here. No, they just go past the turn. So we could happen on a Glade to cast an Owlbear here, which is definitely good. We can only return a permanent from our grave to hand, so we can't just win the game with You Come to a River. But I suppose that is a thing. I always forget about the Find a Crossing effect. Maybe I had lethal at some point in another game with that. So Worth it to bring that back when we can bring back an owlbear, or a purple worm later. Probably not. Yeah, let's go to our turn. I guess I should have untapped one more land so I could just draw a card there. Four, 5. 5 plus 6, 11. 11 mana, 3 mana to bring it back. 5 to cast it, that requires 8 mana. 11 minus 8 is 3. That's enough to draw one card and use a Conjure on tap. So we can draw one card here. And then if we use a Conjure on tap, we still have the mana to return a purple worm and cast it. Alright. So purple worm and the skeletons here. Purple worm is going to 1-for-1 trade now. Oh, we just kill a chump blocker, I suppose. Not expecting that. But I'll take it. If that's the case, we're not going to have this purple worm die until like our end step anyway, so we might as well draw a card now. Alright, and now we just pass, right? We've got 4 mana. We could cast 2 cards, the 4 mana and the 3 mana one, if I untap all 3, but then I just don't have blockers. Seems not worth it. They have 3 blockers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attackers. 4 of them get in. We hit for 8. And then we lose a bunch of creatures. Getting pretty close to where we should just go wide with absolutely everybody, but we also really just die on the crackback if we don't immediately hit them. Ooh, Horde Robber with unblockability is not good for us, but if they attack with it, then they're down another blocker here. Which gets us closer to lethal. Yeah, we're dead in 2 turns if they attack with this Horde Robber, so we have to like find lethal on them like right now. Basically. Because, okay, so they have 2 blockers. They go block, block, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They definitely survive right now. We kind of have to draw Tarask here. We need basically like immediate lethal in response. Because otherwise, they hit with Horde Robber, we're down to 7. They drain with Herald, we're down to 5. They hit with Horde Robber next turn, and we're down to 2. And then they hit with Herald again, we're dead. So we're essentially at 5 life right now. And then next turn, 3 more damage plus Herald, we're dead. So none of these permanents help find lethal. We just draw cards with contact other planes, so we can draw 2 instead of 1. And we get to scry 2 as well. Helps us dig for Tarask, which would be the biggest solution to our problems here. We hit Wizard class and Gretchen and Owlbear. Charmed Sleep is also an answer. We've only got 10 cards left here. We've got a 1 in 5 chance of hitting the Tarask or Charmed Sleep. How much mana is Tarask? Tarask is like 9 mana. We have 11. 12 mana. We can spend 4 on Wizard class, and then we have 8 left. We can definitely Wizard class draw 2 here. Because we're just dead next turn, it's better to spend the 4 to draw 2 than it is to spend 5 and draw 1 and get another creature out. Come on. Give me the Tarask. Charmed Sleep. Is Charmed Sleep lethal here? Charmed Sleep can stop Horde Robber from hitting us, but then they can just hit us with Valor Singer instead. Right? If I can lethal them with Charmed Sleep here, then we go for it. So what? We tap down Herald. They only have Valor Singer. Valor Singer blocks the 8/7. They take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They take 13, so even if they gain life off of the Herald, that would be lethal. So we just Charmed Sleep. Right? Charmed Sleep, they have 1 blocker that blocks the 8/7. They take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So yeah, even if they get a lucky die roll and gain life, that's lethal, right? Because of Thieves' Tools, if Herald survives, and either of these two survive, they could just kill us. So we go for this potential lethal. All right, they just tap out, so even if they gain the 2 life here, that's it. And they don't gain the 2 life. That was probably a lot closer than it needed to be. Terrifying game there. I feel like I was in a pretty good position most of that game, but they started getting that life drain going and the unblockability. Really spooky stuff from our opponent. So we do have You Find a Cursed Idol. We can use to blow up a Thieves' Tools, which is very important in a board stall like that. So I definitely enjoy that. What is the cut? Gretchen absolutely slapped. That was incredible. Our opponent didn't seem to have a ton of removal, which is very good for us. We don't have a ton of removal either. We have just a Charm Sleep, really. So what do I cut here? I'm so used to just regular ranked drafts that I've basically forgotten how to sideboard. If I'm being completely honest, I don't tend to do traditional drafts anymore. I really like You Come to a River here, potentially. Getting rid of +1/+1 counters on stuff and slowing them down. So definitely don't want to cut that. Swarming didn't actually work super hot there, but I could definitely see positions where it would. But it did we still won the game with it eventually, just by always having 2 2/1s out. Our board was always pretty wide to where we could get close to finding lethal at any point. I suppose we could get rid of 1 Conjure, because once we hit the late game, as we saw there, we just have a stack of them doing not much. They're still blocking, and they do block well in this matchup. Maybe we just get rid of a Null Hunter here. I like the idea that it comes out and blocks things early, but we're doing pretty hot overall in the early game. Yeah, sure, I'm going to cut a Null Hunter here. I don't even know if that's particularly correct. But I think we definitely want You Find a Cursed Idol. I guess you know what I could do? I could just play the 41 card specials and not even think about it. Just to throw in the 41st card and call it a day. Alright, well, hand is a little bit slow, but I did cut one of our 2 drops, so that's a bit on me. But if we make it to the late game here, we are just rolling. We are just slamming down owl bears, slamming down a skeletal swarming. Doing a lot of great stuff here. Horde Robber does get that treasure token. Gets things working quite well for our opponent. We'll get a 2/3 out so we can block the Horde Robber, stop it for a turn here. We do have Precipitous Drop, so we can't block here, but we can still use it to cast Owlbears, so we're definitely not going to go for the chump block. Let them get the treasure token here. They only have 2 cards left in their hand. It's probably not ramping incredibly hard with these treasure tokens. And we'll have 4/4s to trade off with whatever they do cast off of them. They have 3 mana thanks to those treasures, so they could be casting one of them right now, maybe another Valor Singer or something. Plundering Barbarian. Alright. 2/2, get a treasure. Not as bad for us as another Valor Singer would have been, so I'll take it. And there is the first Owlbear. The first of its kind, but certainly not the last. And a dungeon map from our opponent, so now they have a good mana sink to start using in this position, because they have just dumped their whole hand out at lightning speed. So now they get to start just venturing over and over and over again. They spit out a goblin token here. Next turn they get a +1/+1 counter. After that they'll draw a card, and luckily the single owlbear holds them off of attacks here. So we could just find a cursed idol and blow up their dungeon map here. Because if they complete this dungeon, we lose the Conjurer, and if they go one level deeper, they get a +1/+1 counter on something, which isn't great. And our 4/4 already seems to be convincing them not to attack here, so we don't really need to play another 4/4 immediately. So I think what we can do here, which is pretty good, is to just blow up the dungeon map. Just smash it. And then we can just happen on a glade to grab a swamp for our skeletal swarming. And we don't have a good attack here. They can block with a 2/3 and a 2/2. That is not good for us. And no reason to untap something, although I guess we're never blocking with this Conjurer, so might as well. Yeah, there's no way I'm blocking with Conjurer, so we'll just pretend we have our 4-mana draw spell. Maybe that'll convince them. We're at 14 life here, so yeah, I was going to say probably not worth an attack from our opponent, just to chip in like 4 damage. There's another Conjurer here. We have 6 mana. We have an untap from Conjurer, so we have 7 mana. We don't have enough to cast 2 spells here. Do we just cast Swarming? I think I'd rather cast Owlbear for now, to be honest. Swarming, we get like a tapped 1/1. The next turn we have a 1/1 that has to attack him. That's just not great. Ooh, and we hit Tarask off the Owlbear. That is wonderful. Yeah, then 2 2/1s that have to attack, just attack into their 3 toughness creatures. Save the Swarming for later, so we can use the Swarming to get the final 2 attackers that we kind of need to clear out the game. Probably a Manticore to kill the Owlbear here, but we've got so much stuff here that we can absolutely afford to lose creatures. Our opponent has 1 card in hand, we've got 6. We are very much rolling in the value this game. And we have a Tarask coming up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 mana off from Tarask here. Just play double Conjurer. Again, Skeletal Swarming, not super crazy here. Let's get everything nice and safe. Get our defenses all boarded up here. And they've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 power there, so with a 10/10 that fights something... Ooh, easy block. Easy double block. We lose 1 Conjurer. With a 10/10 that fights something, we can easily, very freely attack with Tarask here. Sometimes you have to be worried. You have to be like, oh, well, this will fight, and then it'll have taken enough damage to die. Tarask is not going to take enough damage to die here. The board is pretty small. So, send in the big attack, hold back our 2/3. We're pretty firmly in the lead, unless our opponent has a big bomb. Then I think we're super safe. Even if they have like an Orcus or something, it's not going to be nearly big enough to kill our Tarask. So the Tarask should close out the game as it does. And that'll be 2-0 in that match. Alright, so we have made it to 1 natural win, but 2 wins on the record. So player draft token and 3 packs. 1 more win is where we're really in the value. It's where it is wonderful to be, so we'll see if we can't get another match win here. Always going to be playing first. We've got a Yuan-Ti Malice in turn 2 that can venture, help us scry and hit our 3rd and 4th land. That will be pretty important here. So if our opponent has an early removal spell for our Yuan-Ti Malice, then that will be a sad time for us. Our opponent starts with a Hall of Storm Giants. For 6 mana, they can turn this land into a 7/7 with Ward 3, which is pretty terrifying. Looks like the mirror match here. We do hit the 3rd land guaranteed, but we still want to hit 1 more. definitely attack with the Malison here and venture into the Lost Mine of Fandelver. That'll give us some scry, give us a treasure token, all the good stuff. And there's the 4th land. We do want to hit it, and we'll keep it. Now we have a guaranteed Owlbear next turn. We just play a land, tap 4, untap a land, and cast it. And going first with a ramp card like Clever Conjurer, I think we're in a pretty good position currently, but it is very early in the game. Varus is really, really good against our deck because we don't have any removal that'll get it off the board. So now, every time they cast a creature, they get to venture into the dungeon. Great value right there. Plus, they get a 2/2 wolf every time they complete a dungeon. This card is going to be disastrous for us to face up against. That is just a brutal card to deal with. Do we bounce it right now? I don't think we bounce it right now, but we'll probably end up bouncing in the future. For now, I think we should still just curve out and play an Owlbear. But I could definitely see us wanting to just bounce that. We do hit another Owlbear, though. Maybe if we just cast enough Owlbears fast enough, then hopefully we can we just fight through it. Treasure token doesn't seem too bad to me, because then I can cast an Owlbear without tapping Conjurer. And it lets us potentially cast 2 things in one turn. I don't see much of a point in a 1/1. A 1/1 gives us 1 chump blocker, which could be good against a green-blue deck. I mean, we know they have a 7/7. But that won't matter till like really late in the game. Treasure token could come in handy a little sooner. Yeah, I'm going to grab the treasure token here. I think we probably just try to get as aggressive as possible here. Just start slamming them with Owlbears. And if we do enough damage early on in the game, it's possible that with You Come to a River, we can find a crossing just to let our Purple Worm ford the river and attack for 9 unblockable damage. That could be our potential way out of this game. Let them get as much value as they want. Go speed run these dungeons thanks to Varus. They get to scry 1 and get the adventure when the apprentice comes in. They are on their way, already halfway through the dungeon. So we just let them speed run the dungeons, and hopefully we'll just speed run damaging their face. Ray of Frost on the Malison. So that will not be attacking anymore, but that is okay, because I definitely wanted to start attacking with Owlbears. And if the Malison attacks and it isn't attacking alone, it is not unblockable. So if I was going to attack with Owlbears this turn, I couldn't attack with that anyway. So pretty fine with that. I'm not even going to bounce it and try to recast it here. I'm just going to start slamming with Owlbears. The only way they can kill this is if they double block, and I will happily kill Varus with my Owlbear if that is the play. And if we just deal 4, I'm pretty happy with that as well. We're only 1 more hit of 4 damage away from having a Purple Worm finding a crossing being lethal. They just have to be at 9 life, and we can kill them with that. So we're just going to do everything we can to get them there. I suppose we do have some nice tricks against blue removal. Clever Conjurer can untap our Malison any turn that we want to just get in unblockably with it. So if they get something good out, like a 5/5 or 6/6 or something that can block our Owlbears well, or a 4/5 even, we can just untap the Malison to get an unblockable instead. Actually seems like a pretty good deal. I think I'll be attacking with the Malison here, drain them for life, that puts them to 9 life, and then we'll cast our Purple Worm. So since they're at 9 life, they'll be one turn away from death. So unless they go into the Dark Pool here, we can find lethal in 2 turns thanks to our Malison, because we can go into the Dark Pool ourselves, draining them for a life. If they go into the Dark Pool, though, they'll be at 10 life. Alright, Fungi Cavern. Big fan of that. They should just shut off an Owlbear. That's not even what I was going to attack with this turn. Big fan of that. We do hit a Charmed Sleep, but let's keep our eyes on the prize here. We have lethal in 2 turns if we go unblockable. And here's the Purple Worm. With its 8 power, we add 1 power to that and give it unblockability, and that is a 9 damage unblockable swing. So that's our game plan here. They could definitely find some life gain, either from just an inspiring bard, or they will be completing this dungeon and heading into another. They could complete this and go into the... what is it even called? The Dungeon of the Mad Mage. But looks like they only have one venture this turn, so I guess they don't get to complete the dungeon and go into another. So no life gain from them yet. They only have 1 mana up here. I'm definitely gonna go for the purple worm kill. We'll see if it happens here. If they have a 1 mana card to stop it, then they do. But if they don't, that's 9 unblockable right there. Get in there. Purple worm fording the river with its massive 9/7 body. Alright. So, I kind of like running it back. We already have some great stuff against their removal. Because they're a blue deck, their removal is cards like Charmed Sleep and Ray of Frost that we've seen that will keep our creatures tapped. If they keep our creatures tapped, having 4 copies of Clever Conjurer is exceptionally good against them. Other than that, like, I'd love ways to kill Varus, but we just don't have them. The closest that we have is like a Compelled Duel, I guess. If Varus is the only creature on their board, Compelled Duel could force it to block, but we don't get to choose what they block with this, so if they have 2 creatures out, Varus is just not going to block. So I don't really think it's worth throwing that in. I think our deck is already just fine. Excuse me, we have just a decent matchup against them. We could throw in, like, you find a Cursed Idol to destroy their enchantment removal, but again, with 4 copies of Conjurer, I don't think it's necessary. I think our plan against the removal is just the Conjurers. Choose Your Weapon wouldn't be the worst. They were beating us up with some flyers there. Just 2/2 flyers, so not the scariest things ever, but would not be terrible to have some flying removal in the deck. Yeah, we don't have much other interaction with flyers. We don't really have any reach or flying ourselves. And worst case scenario, if they don't have a flyer, we can just use this as a combat trick. Kind of do like throwing that in here. Cut like one of our Gretchens or something. Yeah, I'm going to cut one of the Happen on a Glades here. We only have 2 black sources for the Skeletal Swarming here, but we can also use treasure tokens if we venture at all. With cards like our Yanti Malison. Oh! Alright, we will keep this hand. We do get turn 2 Malison here. Turn 3 Happen on a Glade to get us all the mana we need to cast our cards up to 5 mana. So this is a very nice comeback after the mulligan there. And Pixie Guide. Turn 2 will start things off for our opponent. Yanti Malison turn 2 gonna start things off for us. Our opponent probably tired of that card after last game. Turn 3, Displacer Beast from our opponent. So a lot of venturing in our opponent's deck. Our opponent does seem to be like blue-green venture here, which is quite interesting. Scrying 1. I think I would rather just draw 2 cards here than grab 2 lands. I suppose we're incredibly likely to just want lands eventually anyway. We definitely want to hit 5 lands for Owlbear. So getting 2 guaranteed lands is pretty good. But you know what, let's scry with the Malison first. If we hit a land on top, then I'll just draw 2 off of Wizard class. And if there's not a land on top, then I guess I'll just grab 2 lands with Happen on a Glade. Not a land, just an Owlbear. So we have a blind card on top that could be a land, could not be. Dig a little closer to potentially being land. But yeah, let's go for guaranteed lands here. We need to hit a land drop every turn. We need to go turn 4 land, turn 5 land Owlbear. So we'll do everything we can to make sure that happens. use our wizard class to draw cards later. Our opponent is definitely winning the race for now, but we get to play an Underdark Basilisk next turn, and then hopefully an Owlbear can hold things off after that. Eccentric Apprentice heads into the Lost Mine of Phandelver, grabbing a 1/1 now from the Goblin Lair. Definitely a green source so we can cast Owlbear, and a black source in case we hit Skeletal Swarming. And a pretty great draw here. Now we get to play 2 blockers, which is pretty fantastic. I like that better than drawing a couple cards here because we already have our turn 5 play. We can wait till turn 6 and just spend the whole turn 6 drawing a million cards. And I do like getting a 1/1 Goblin here, just to have a boatload of blockers on the ground. We are taking quite a bit in the sky, though. Taking 3 now. Could definitely use the 2-weapon fighting, or the choose your weapon, to blow up that Eccentric Apprentice, because that is going to be a problem. Pixie Guide's an issue as well, but it's not doing as much damage. Charmed Sleep is a good draw here. Although I suppose if we do that, we don't get to cast an Owlbear. It's probably better than just taking all that damage. We get to Underdark Basilisk to block Owlbear. Our 0/4 can block that, our 1/1 can block that. So we stop all of the attackers except the 1/3 flyer if we Charmed Sleep here. So I think we do. And we can put a +1/+1 counter on the Malison here and just try to use that as our 1-win condition. Just unblockably, repeatedly getting in. So they can get into the storeroom as well now and turn their flyer into a 2-power flyer so they can keep unblockably getting in as well. They are sending in the Owlbear and the Pixie Guide. Definitely blocking the Owlbear with our Underdark Basilisk here. But we cannot block the Pixie Guide, and we do take 2 trample damage, which is not ideal. Down to 9 now. And a clever Conjurer from our opponent. They can untap the Eccentric Apprentice with that, and the Ray of Frost again for the Malison. This is pretty terrible here. They're hitting us for 3 in the sky unblockably. Could draw multiple cards if I don't play an Owlbear. I guess I already am pretty solidified with blocks on the ground. There isn't much purpose in getting an Owlbear out outside of trying to attack them with it. Because we can block Displacer Beast, we can block the Goblin token. Conjurer's just going to untap the Apprentice to get in for 3 flying damage, so we already have blocks for everything they will attack us with on the ground. Yeah, I like the draw 2 here. See if we can't draw our 3-mana removal for the Apprentice, or our Clever Conjurer as well. Another fantastic draw so we can untap our Malison and have our own game plan going forward, but we're dead in 3 turns here. It's going to be pretty painful. Inspiring Bard gains us some life, or does some extra damage to them, so that is a good draw. It's going to be an interesting game here. We'll see how it closes out. Going down to 6 now. Two cards in hand for our opponent, and an Owlbear is the play. Not great for us. Let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 mana. At 7 mana, I can really only cast one thing unless I untap a land here. Which is pretty brutal. Is it better to untap a land here? I don't think so, because we, draw a card if we untap the Malison. So instead of going, Inspiring Bard, contact other plane, we can just draw a card off of Malison and Inspiring Bard. If that's the play we want to go for. Yeah, I think I hit with Malison here. We're going to take 3 next turns. We're not quite dead. Another Owlbear. Yeah, we block there, Owlbear blocks Owlbear. That untaps that. We just take 3 in the sky again. Go down to 3 life here. So unless they have a combat trick, we survive through their turn, so I don't think we need to gain the life with Inspiring Bard. We can wait till next turn to do that, so we'll spend more mana by dumping the Owlbear out and getting a creature that can actually trade with their Owlbear on this board. Oh, there's the Choose Your Weapon. There's the Choose Your Weapon. Very happy to see that. We can clear out the Eccentric Apprentice with that, so we're only taking 1 damage a turn. Whereas they're taking 3 a turn. That should be incredibly helpful. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana, so we can cast Inspiring Bard, gain some life, and Choose Your Weapon next turn. Untap and hit with Malison. Scry 1. I don't even know if we need to scry 1 here at this point. We might be better off just gaining a life, to be honest. Because we've already got value, like we've got, you know, drawing a card, playing an Owlbear, drawing multiple cards off contact other plane. Might be better to just gain a life and survive against the flyers longer. Ooh, the Tarrasque! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. We need 9 mana to cast it. We need 1 more mana. Conjurer untaps a land. So we need 1 more mana for the Tarrasque. So, yeah, I think we go into the Lost Mine of Fandelver, scry 1, and then we'll create a treasure token next turn to cast Tarrasque. So here we want to gain life off of the Bard and blow up the flyer with the Choose Your Weapon. Correct. We'll double block the Frost Giant. I guess we can't really kill the Frost Giant. Well, yeah, we could chump block Frost Giant with a Goblin here and trade with Owlbear. We can kill Frost Giant like next turn. But yeah, we need... I guess we don't need to gain life. No, I can't Owlbear because then I don't have the mana to choose your weapon, so I need to play a 4 mana card. So yeah, we need to play Inspiring Bard, which means we need to kind of just gain life here. With the Tarrasque coming up, we're kind of locked for the late game. So do we not even untap Malison here? I feel like we still untap Malison. But it's possible that it's better to leave Conjurer as a blocker here. But if Conjurer dies, then we can't cast Tarrasque as soon. I'm going to wait to choose your weapon until they untap Apprentice. Yeah, let's do the Malison thing. We're going to have to chump block with a Goblin token here, but it's whatever. We get more damage in this way. They go down to 8. We can try to close out the game with just 3 more swings from that card. We do want this land for Tarrasque. Because then we can play Tarrasque off of the land and a treasure token, and we don't even need to use the Conjurer to untap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus the treasure token is 9. There's a contact other plane from our opponents. Getting an 11, so they scry 2, draw 2. Both to bottom, draw 2. Don't have removal. Oh, Charmed Sleep is really bad for us. I don't think it's not quite lethal, but it's really, really bad for us, because now we can't trade Owlbears when they attack in, and they get to attack with a 4/5 and a 4/4 on the ground, which is really, really bad, because now we can't kill either of them. I guess we can double block. We're never going to have the mana to use Gretchen's effect, so we can double block Owlbear with our 3/3 and 1/1, and then block their 4/5 with our Gretchen. But then we take a lot of damage. Take a lot of damage because we take all the Displacer Beast damage and the 1/1 Goblin damage and all that nonsense. If they hold no blockers back, though, Tarrasque just wins on the spot. So, actually, I'm 100% excited for this attack if they go through with it. It's a very fair attack from our opponent, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess we do have lethal in the crackback if we can somehow survive this attack and all of our creatures, so they might not go for it. No! Alright. They didn't go for it. If they leave only one creature back too, we could also kill them. Okay, if we can survive to where Choose Your Weapon kills the Pixie Guide, we can kill them with Tarask by having Tarask kill the 1/1 Goblin here. So, how can we survive this without blowing that up? We stop all that damage by doing that. Stop all that damage by doing that. All that damage by doing that. Oh, that's not even attacking. So we just do this and we take 2. Oh, wait, no, we take that damage too. So we do this and we take 1, 2, 3. Probably not the best blocks I can make, but it's cool with me. Okay, this is a little bit better blocks, but I guess it really doesn't matter because we have lethal next turn. So bam, bam, bam. Take 1, 2 from the Apprentice. Take no trample damage here. Go to 4 life. Right? Okay. Choose Your Weapon blows up their flyer. They now have 1 blocker left. With 1 blocker left, Tarask comes in, kills the 1 blocker, and hits them for 10. Tarask says, "What's up?" Oh my god, thank you so much, Tarask. I think Tarask has won 50% of the games we've played today. It's just all in on Tarask in this green-blue ramp deck, really. Tarask is one of the biggest reasons to be a ramp deck, because it's really the only deck that can consistently play it, but that will take us to 3 wins and 1 loss here. Whatever happens now, I'm happy with it. Spent the equivalent of 2 player drafts to get 2 player draft tokens in 6 packs, so we're getting 6 packs of value regardless of future events here, as well as being able to have the experience of having played all these games and acquired all the cards that we drafted, so we are in the money. So here we are heading into round 5. These draft challenges are quite the long events, so you got to be ready for that because they are sort of the traditional draft format of best 2 out of 3 matches. I'll keep this hand. We definitely need to hit a green source, but we only need to hit 1 green source, and then we can hit the next green for Owlbear off of either untapping our forest with a Conjurer or just grabbing another forest with You Happen on a Glade. So our opponent's on red here, and they start with a Spiked Pit Trap, solid removal spell. I mean, it's like mediocre. It's not what you always want, but the reason that I do like the card quite a bit is the fact that it's completely colorless, so it's playable in any deck. So it's a moderately high pick for me, just because of that. Early on in the draft, by picking up a Spiked Pit Trap, you know whatever deck you end up in, you've got some removal, which would be helpful in our deck because we're definitely quite low on removal here. Blue, green, and red. Maybe they went for the deck that I was thinking about early on. The blue-green splash and red for some dice rolling. I guess they are heavy into red, though. We've seen 2 cheap red cards here from them. Play our Clever Conjure here. It is quite likely that I will just trade with this 1 Goblin token, because I'm quite scared of just dying early on here, and I have 2 more Conjures to replace it with, and the Conjure doesn't even help us cast anything unless I draw a forest here. And we just don't know that we're going to immediately do that, so let's just do everything we can to survive these early turns. And we did immediately draw a forest, so it would have helped cast an Owlbear, but now we can still just cast another Conjurer to be able to cast that next turn. Alternatively, we can just Happen on a Glade here, grab a forest and a swamp, which I think I will go for. They could have a haste creature, in which case not having a blocker for it is a bit rough, but I don't think it's super likely that they have a haste creature that's also small enough to die to a Clever Conjurer. And yeah, no creatures from our opponent means that we definitely have the time to grab the mana we need here to start casting whatever we want in our future turns. And you know, against an empty board, I'm kind of just going to drop down a Swarming, because the more skeletons we get, the better they are. There's no better way to get more skeletons than by just having the skeletons not die. And if they never get into combat, they're never going to die, so as long as this skeletal swarming can go on without them having creatures on board, it's just going to keep snowballing into bigger and bigger skeletons. They'll become 3/1s, maybe even 4/1s by the time they get a creature down, hopefully. That would be the ideal situation. Our opponent is on probably 5 color here. They may have drafted a Tiamat, in which case I'm super excited about our opponent's deck. It's very, very bold choice, not something that I would usually go for. And they have got the fancy styles too, with Kalain into Baleful Beholder to blow up Skeletal Swarming and have Baleful Beholder come out with multiple +1/+1 counters. A very, very good turn for our opponent. Kalain into Beholder there. We have not enough mana to cast Owlbear and bounce the Beholder, and I really need to bounce the Beholder, so I don't think I'm casting Owlbear here. I can cast Clever Conjurer and still have the mana up to bounce the Beholder, and I think I'll do that. I could alternatively play the Malison, but then Kalain can get in, and they might blow up the Malison with the Spiked Pit Trap. I don't think they'll blow up a Clever Conjurer. I think Conjurer gets to come out here, sit here, keep Kalain from attacking us. Ooh, they throw Trample onto that. Baleful Beholder is now a 10-8, but by throwing Trample onto it, they now don't have the mana to recast it, so I'm very, very happy to bounce it. I'm actually happy to trade with Kalain here, keep them from getting counters on their other cards, and get the board completely clear for one moment. They will, of course, recast the Beholder next turn, but for now, we're facing no opposition. Alright, now we get to drop an Owlbear, and if we hit a land, we can also play Malison. It's probably better to get 2 cards guaranteed out, especially because they can just blow up Owlbear with Spiked Pit Trap. We have 6 mana, so 6 mana we go Malison, Contact Other Plane. Or Gretchen, Contact Other Plane. I like Malison here. Malison might draw the Spiked Pit Trap. If they use Spiked Pit Trap to kill something here, they don't have the mana to play Beholder, which means we get some time to just set up and stay safe here, which I enjoy. If I play Clever Conjurer here, then I can cast Owlbear and Gretchen next turn guaranteed, which might be better than just drawing 2 cards, because we don't need more cards if we already have guaranteed plays next turn. Yeah, I'll go Conjurer. Rather dump the hand first and then refuel. Another Kalain. Opponent's deck is sick. 5-color multiple Kalains here. The Treasure Vault as well, actually putting in a lot of work there, making that first Beholder super massive. Second one's going to be a little smaller, but still pretty good here. They don't have the mana to cast it immediately unless they play another land. So yep, just suit up the Kalain. So they're just trying to get those treasures ready. We have 3 mana after this, so we just play an Owlbear and a Gretchen and hit them with the Malison. Unless we draw something specific. Another Owlbear, don't have the mana for that, so just cast Gretchen. I think we're in a pretty good position here. Even if they play a really big Beholder, we can simply double block. Now we get to Scry. Another Gretchen. That is legendary, so you can get on bottom here. I suppose they could always pit trap our first Gretchen. But I feel like just our attacking creatures are going to be higher priority pretty soon. Especially because the fact that our Owlbears and Contact Other Planes and stuff, we have so much card draw on the deck already. It's going to be a while before we have time to draw cards off of this, and I think that our opponent agrees with that assessment. They blow up our attacking creature, our big old Owlbear first, or I guess they blow up both. Burning Hands, pretty good against our deck. 2 mana for 6 damage to pretty much anything we have. We do have a mountain of Owlbears, though, which is always great. So we'll keep drawing cards all game long. Where are we going now in the dungeon? The Goblin Lair or the Mine Tunnels? We have 7 mana. We'll have 8 mana if we get a treasure token here. Could help cast a Tarask. If we get 9 mana, we can cast Owlbear and Contact Other Plane. 1/1 Goblin is pretty small. Yeah, I'm gonna get the treasure token from the Mine Tunnels here. If we top deck a land, then we can cast Owlbear and Contact Other Plane in the same turn now, which is good. There's the Baleful Beholder, 6/5. That'll hold down the fort pretty well. We could attack all, lose an owlbear to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage, or 6 damage to them. Put them to 8 life. Alternatively, we can just hit them for 2 guaranteed and lose no creatures, which is probably better. Although we're drawing a ton of cards. We're going to have another owlbear on the board and draw 2 more cards. So, I mean, we've got so much value that we can afford to just sack an owlbear for an extra 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. We do go into the Fungi Cavern here, though. Yeah, no, if we're going into the Fungi Cavern, let's just do that, and then next turn we get to do an all-attack because we're going to make their Beholder just not able to block well. I guess they could spend all their mana throwing equipment on that, but if they do that, then that means that they don't have more creatures to play and block with. Oh, Charmed Sleep? Not yet. Not yet. We'll use that as a surprise gift for them next turn. It's a surprise tool that'll help us later. Draw some cards for now. Again, it is possible they play something bigger and scarier than Beholder, especially because they're like probably 5 colors. We know they're 4 colors. You're not playing an island without playing blue cards in your deck. You're not playing a forest without playing green cards in your deck. So we know they're at least red, blue, green, black. And they've got a lot of treasure production, so they can very, very easily be the full 5. Looks like our opponent is going to have to just spend the mana suiting up the Beholder, making sure it's big enough to kill an owlbear on blocks, but hopefully Charmed Sleep for lethal does it. We've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 power on the board, plus Knoll Hunter's Pack Tactics ability will be 14 damage. Alright, Yanti Malison of their own will be the blocker that they need to survive the swing, but they'll survive it just barely. So I think Charmed Sleep on Beholder is still going to be great for us here. They take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they have to block the Knoll Hunter to survive. So we don't even need to worry about our Malison dying. If they block an owlbear, it tramples over for 3, so they still die. They have to block Knoll Hunter here, and it looks like they just accept the death there. Even if they block Knoll Hunter, they go to 1 life with a pretty small board at that point. So we'll stabilize pretty well that game. But our opponent did have a pretty awkward hand. They did not have a lot of early game pressure, which helped us a lot. I feel like if they did have a really good curve out with like Kalane into some big cards like very early on, that game could have gone much differently. But luckily for us, they pretty much just had a 1/1 Goblin and a bunch of equipment for the first several turns of that game. So I kind of like just running it back. They do have a Baleful Beholder to stop our Charmed Sleep, but Charmed Sleep still good enough just to tap a creature down for 1 turn and try to get lethal. That is like the weakest it'll be. That's if they immediately have a Beholder, and often they won't. Is Skeletal Swarming still good enough? Probably, because anytime they don't have a Beholder, it is a very threatening card, and what would we really put in if we take Swarming out? I guess our mana base would be better. We wouldn't have a swamp in here. We'd just be natural green-blue. So we could take out Skeletal Swarming and throw in... Honestly, I don't even know what we have that would work well against their specific deck. It's kind of just a strange multicolor deck there. I think we're solid as is. Run it back here. All right. Our opponent is on the play. We do have a turn 2 Gretchen. We've got You Come to a River. That works great against those Kalanes. We've got our Glade to grab the lands we need to get to our Purple Worm. Pretty big fan of this hand. And there is Kalane herself. Three colors assembled from our opponent already, red, black, and blue, as well as a treasure token here. They're going to use that treasure to cast a Barbarian and replace the treasure. So the Barbarian gets to come out as a 3/3. Unfortunately for us, they do have a Burning Hands to get Gretchen out of the way. We do have an Owlbear coming up, which is going to be great with our Clever Conjurer here. That means we get to cast it next turn if they don't kill the Conjurer. I should have brought another water bottle to this recording session. I was not prepared for the potential to go long, which I think I certainly should have been, considering they are best of 3 matches. So Owlbear is super nice here, drawing us a card at worst, even if they remove it immediately. And if they don't, a 4/4 on the board does a pretty good job at blocking everything they have, giving us the time we need to make it to our Purple Worm. Goblin Morningstar, if they get a red source here, can throw that onto the Barbarian so it trades up into the Owlbear. Did not have the red source there though. So now, kind of like attacking with Owlbear, they could double block with Barbarian and Kalane, but if they do so, that means we get to cast the Purple Worm early, which is always fun. And if they don't block, we can just untap the Owlbear with our Clever Conjurer and be really safe. I guess we also have the Come to a River to bounce one of their creatures, maybe get the free kill on a creature. Is that better than casting a Purple Worm here? I don't think so. I think we just want to cast a Purple Worm if they go for that kind of block. Because then we can use the You Come to a River to either save the Purple Worm in a similar position, or just get lethal with the Purple Worm later in the game, as we did in an earlier round. So there we go, big old 8/7. And pass the turn. Also, hard to target with that ward too. I really like the Purple Worm. The Purple Worm is just one of those cards that really speaks to the core of what I used to be as a Magic player when I first started the game. It was all about Llanowar Elves and Crawworms. Crawworms, of course, were just 2 green and 4 for a 6/4 worm. It was just a gigantic worm you would play. That card is very unplayable even by modern limited standards now. Now we have 6 mana 7/6s that gain life, but that was the jam for your green decks back in the day. It was beautiful artwork as well. But Purple Worm very much gives me similar vibes. It's just a big green dork. And it's a worm. Alright, so our opponent just spends some time getting a boatload of mana for Kalane, so Come to a River can really shut off whatever they cast off of it. We can go for the double attack here. We're probably getting 10 damage in this turn if they're just spitting out a bunch of treasures. So it's better to go for a double attack or play a Basilisk and an Owlbear. I think it's better to just get more damage in. Basilisk isn't really necessary here. Let's just hit for 10. Puts them very close to dying to an unblockable 9/7. And here's our friend, another Owlbear. And these Happen on a Glades are going to be pretty great here. We actually get to make camp this game. This might be one of the very few games where we actually cast that. That is if the game does not end very quickly here, which may very well. So we attack all here. They block, take 6. I guess we have lethal if they have nothing. If they have nothing, we can make Purple Worm unblockable, but they have a bunch of treasure tokens. I don't think... I mean, with double Happen on Glade, we have a lot of safety if they happen to have a trick here. So let's just be like, bam, if you don't have something, then you're dead. Just go for the lethal here. Alright, they don't have something, unfortunately, for our opponent, so that makes it 4 wins for us. It's a little sad to see how their deck ran there, because I was kind of excited to see the four color stuff, but I didn't really see what they were splashing in off the 4th or potentially 5th colors there. I guess I really just wanted to see a Tiamat. We didn't get to see a Tiamat. But they did get a lot of treasures there. They had some massive creatures coming out with Kalane. But I think our deck, just being the more consistent deck of the two, managed to just spit out consistent creatures and good value, keep pressure on the board, and win that way against the less less consistent but more fun strategy. Alright, we're definitely going to play first. Going to have to mulligan this. Can't really keep a 1-lander in this deck for sure. Can definitely keep a 2-lander. Or a 4-lander, sorry. But I think we're going to have to get rid of the Tarrasque again. I don't really want to get rid of the Tarrasque, but making it more likely that we hit the Owlbear is very important here. And again, we do have 2 copies of You Happen on a Glade to shuffle the library. It's not like the Tarrasque will not get cast by getting scryed to the bottom. It's still a possible late game finisher. Alright, and that is a fantastic draw. This hand just went from good to nitro-fueled Clever Conjurer into Owlbear. Playing against green-red. Green-red tend to be aggressive decks focused around pack tactics, and they are off to an aggressive start. Null Hunter and Valor Singer here. Of course, we do have a 0-4 to just block all that, but still, they are going to hit pack tactics very quickly here. But thanks to having an Owlbear, we're going to have a great creature to at least trade off with one of those, but probably even hold them off for a while, and we draw another Owlbear. Always what you want in these green decks. Just start looping the Owlbears once you hit 5 mana. It's always a good time. If we ever run out of Owlbears, we can start using Gretchen's ability. But for now, the Owlbear party has begun. Oh, there's a Battlecry Goblin. I'm terrified of our opponent's deck. I think we're in a relatively good position this game to not just die to super early aggro because we're starting to get to our stack of Owlbears. But this is the kind of deck. We see a Null Hunter, a Valor Singer, and a Battlecry Goblin. All 3 of these fantastic aggressive cards, but especially Battlecry Goblin. And they also have a rare Manland. Our opponent's deck seems very good and has the potential for big blowout early games that could absolutely kill us on a slower hand. So I'm very scared about this matchup. We will see how things go this game, though. This game's looking okay. We've got blockers out. We've got more card draw coming later. We have quite the late game with 2 cards to draw off Wizard class, 2 cards to draw off Contact Other Plane, a potential Skeletal Swarming whenever we hit a black source. A lot of late game power in this hand, and we're not under a boatload of pressure thus far, although they have a good attack here. They're going to clear out some Owlbears. Attack with Null Hunter and Battlecry Goblin here. Ooh, attack all 3. Maybe we get to get a free kill on a Valor Singer here. They will have to double pump the Battlecry Goblin in order to kill an Owlbear with it. And the Valor Singer isn't a goblin, so if we do this, they will be left with a Null Hunter and a 1-1. We will be left with an Owlbear, a Gretchen, and a Clever Conjurer. I think this is worth it, because this also soaks up all their mana if they're planning to use the buff ability on the Battlecry Goblin to do this. I don't love that the Null Hunter is going to be a 4-4 next time it attacks, but we'll have a 4-4 of our own out to trade with it the next time it attacks. I guess alternatively we could do this, but I am pretty scared of the fire breathing from the Battlecry Goblin. The fact that it spits out a creature every time. We could also block with Gretchen, and maybe that convinces them to spend all the mana into buffing it. Yeah, Battlecry Goblin, I guess, can just trade into our Clever Conjurer at any point later, so here we're like clearing all that. Yeah, let's do this here. We've already got a ton of card draw that's going to cost us a lot of mana coming up here, so it's going to be, again, quite a while before we're using Gretchen's ability to draw cards. So if they do decide to spend all their mana into killing Gretchen here, then that means no fancy tricks to have Valor Singer kill our Owlbear, and they're not going to play any other creatures this turn, so it keeps pressure off our backs, so I think it's worth the Gretchen sacrifice here. Alright. I think all in all this is a good trades on the attack for us. We do hit a Charmed Sleep. We could cast it if we untap a blue source with Clever Conjurer here. Keep that Battlecry Goblin tapped, but I think that I want to... Yeah, I think I want to Save Charmed Sleep for a scarier, more late-game card. For now, I can just use our Clever Conjurer to kill their Battlecry Goblin, which I think I will do. So I'm going to have our Clever Conjurer trade into that Battlecry Goblin here, I think is the plan. Or I suppose I should say our second Clever Conjurer. I could save our Owlbear to block the Goblin token, but they have enough to double pump here. If they play one more land, they can pump stuff 3 times, and then I can't block the Goblin token. I'm not going to want Owlbear to trade down. At the same time, I already have the late game kind of shirt up, so I don't know if I need to get 4 damage in here. When I could play it safe in case they don't have a land here. If they don't have a land, then they can... they can't buff the Goblin up. And I guess also if they do have a land, then that means they can make the Lair of the Hydra attack as a 4/4, in which case we would absolutely want to trade our Owlbear into the Lair of the Hydra. Yeah, we'll play it safe here. I think there's a couple reasons to do that. If they don't have the land drop, they can't buff the Goblin token enough to trade into Owlbear. If they do have the land drop, they might be attacking with Lair of the Hydra here, in which case Owlbear clears that right off. Alright, so no attacks there. Pretty happy to see that. Do I want to Charmed Sleep anything yet? I think I still don't. Let's go ahead and draw some cards off of Wizard class, see what we hit. We might be untapping some stuff with Conjurer here to cast more cards. We might be playing another island here. Let's see what we've got here. Just some more forests. We'll have 2 mana up. If I untap 2 more mana, I can use Contact Other Plane, but then I don't have my 2/3s up. If I untap my blue source, I still don't have enough for Charmed Sleep. I have to tap both Conjurers if I want to cast something else, so I think I'm just passing turn here, but things are getting scary. They actually have quite a bit of Pack Tactics trickery going on now to where they can have a pretty good attack. I guess not that bad for us. Our 4/4 can block their 3/3. Our 2/3 can block their X2, and our 2/3 can block their X1. But I think we're just going to block Owlbear onto Null Hunter, Conjurer onto Battlecry Goblin, and hope that the Lair of the Hydra doesn't do anything. So our opponent is in the think tank here, not sure whether to get aggressive or just hold off for now. Maybe have some more creatures to cast here, maybe considering spending all the mana into buffing the Battlecry Goblin or spending all the mana into activating the Lair of the Hydra. Even if the plan is to definitely get aggressive, there's multiple ways for them to do that. They're going to buff the Goblin token. Attack with the Goblin token. And they can buff it with the Battlecry Goblin to make it 4/3 until end of turn. So if we trade here, we're trading down into a 1/1 essentially. Even if I do double block with 2 Clever Conjurers, I'm technically trading a 2/3 down into a 1/1. If I don't trade here, I am going down to 13. I'm taking some damage, which isn't ideal, but I think it's better than losing a 2/3 to a 1/1. Because all of the buffs it's getting here are temporary. I guess it would also get that off the board so we don't have to worry about any of their buffing tricks later on with Battlecry Goblin buffing it. So I kind of want to Contact Other Plane here. I don't know if it's correct. We should probably get this Wizard class going before that. But if I just activate Wizard class here, I'm doing nothing this turn. I really want to hit some gas here. And Contact Other Plane is really the only way to do that. Yeah, I'm going to Contact Other Plane before the Wizard class goes off, so I'm getting less plus and plus counters that way, but now I'm getting more gas. Happen on a Glade's good, it's another Owlbear. And another literal Owlbear is also good. I think I untap a land here for Happen on a Glade. Well, do I? If I untap another land here, I'm down a blocker, which is terrifying. I am always scared, and I'm at 13 life here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 mana next turn. 7 after we play land for a turn, so we can play Owlbear, untap a land, play Charmed Sleep. I think we hold off next turn, we Owlbear Charmed Sleep. Swarming Goblins. Alright, well, that is the kind of 1-2 punch that It's pretty much always lethal with Battlecry Goblin. That is what makes Battlecry Goblin really a mythic rare uncommon. Because being able to just buff that whole board is so bad for us. We can keep it tapped, but it still gets to use its ability even if it's tapped. I think we tapped like the 4/3 at least. So we play an Owlbear here. Charmed Sleep at the 4/3, I suppose. Or play a Null Hunter just to have another blocker. I guess the 4/3 trades into the 4/4. So what we go trade. Eat that. Trade. I want to have as many expendable creatures to trade into the little goblins as possible. I think I'm okay trading an Owlbear into a swarming goblins. Over just Charmed Sleeping it. Because the vastly more important goblin is the Battlecry Goblin, and we can't do anything about that as long as they don't attack with it. Yeah, the fact that they can just send all these 1/1s in as 4/1s right now, because they have 6 mana, they can buff 3 times, is absolutely brutal. But we'll trade the 1/1s for all our 2/2 stuff. Ooh, if they attack all, then it's possible I can come out of this situation with advantage. It's not likely. All of those goblins hit for 4. Actually, no, do we just die? Because all those goblins hit for 4. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We don't quite die, but not doing so hot. If I do this, we take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I go to 2 life here. But I'm left with multiple creatures. I think we have to just go for it. If they have a pump spell, they have a pump spell, and I'm doomed, period. But yeah, 3 plus 8 is 11. We survive with multiple creatures living to tell the tale. And they don't have too many creatures left over after this. So we should be able to make enough blockers, or at least Charmed Sleep, to survive another attack after this, hopefully. I guess we only have 1 Owlbear living to tell the tale. That's true. We need to play 2 creatures this turn. Land will not do that. Yeah, no, we need to be able to play 2 creatures this turn, because we can Charmed Sleep the Bard, block a 1/1 goblin, take 1 from the other goblin, but the Lair of the Hydra gets to attack us as well. So we could happen on a Glade here and like draw a card off an Owlbear. But then we have 1 creature and no more mana. So that just doesn't do it. The skeletons all come to play tapped, so grabbing a swamp doesn't help. Oh, this game's just over. Brutal stuff from Battlecry Goblin into Swarming Goblins. I want to know what the percentage of games where someone casts a Battlecry Goblin into a Swarming Goblins and doesn't win is. Because that is one of the biggest combos in the format. I've died every time that's happened. Oh, they just have improvised weaponry anyway. Well, we were mega dead regardless at the end of there. So let's grab a Bull Strength here, just give us a way to maybe surprise block, catch them off guard, and get the Goblin out that way. I think that is the #1 thing that we need to focus on, is just kill the Battlecry Goblin. That thing is ridiculous. You come to a river is okay here, because we can like bounce after they spend a bunch of mana buffing stuff. I don't think there's anything that isn't great here. I don't know. Everybody, last time I had a Skeletal Swarming, everybody was like so high on that card in the comments section. It seems you all love that card, but has not been doing much for me, in my opinion. Technically, it won us some games by being wide enough, but it's just never been all that impressive to me, to the point where I feel like it's potentially just worse than just like a you meet in a tavern or something here. But I don't know, that's a pretty contentious opinion. But you know what? I'm going to take it out anyway. I'm going to take out the Skeletal Swarming for the Bull Strength here, to have another way to potentially kill the Battlecry Goblin out of nowhere. I suppose, ironically, while Skeletal Swarming is one of my least favorite cards in this deck, this is the best matchup that we've had for a Skeletal Swarming, so it probably isn't the cut here. Because they do have a lot of small creatures, so even just 2/1 skeletons can put in some work in this matchup. But it's just the fact that they come in tapped and stuff that's really rough here. Null Hunter to start things for our opponent. Could Charmed Sleep It or just cast our own Null Hunter here. I don't really need to happen on a Glade. But it could, just to dig some lands out of the deck, draw some cards. I think I would rather be able to trade off with their early game creatures instead of just chump blocking. Well, not chump blocking, but you know what I mean, just straight up blocking. Bull Strength of their own. Alright, well, we'll trade with that. That removal spell, at least. Here we get to draw a card off of Gretchen, or happen on a Glade, or come to a river. If they have another Bull Strength, we'll absolutely bounce that. Yeah, we're not dealing with that. You need to stop your chicanery. I know that word makes no sense here, because it's specifically about, like, legal, like, litigious stuff. But it was just such a great scene in Better Call Saul that I always think of the word chicanery when somebody's trying to get away with some stuff. But yeah, technically chicanery is supposed to be, it's a word for just like legal law involving shenanigans. I don't think I want to Charm Sleep the Null Hunter. Like, what are the odds they have triple Bull Strength in the opener? I feel like it's not high. I mean, if they do, they can kill this Gretchen and we can just play our next Gretchen. So, if they kept the Null Hunter triple Bull Strength, then they got us. Alright, there's the red Source Plundering Barbarian. Get a treasure token, sure. Do we have anything in graveyard to pick up? A Null Hunter? Probably not worth the happen on a Glade to bring back a 2/2 here. Dragon's Fire? Alright, kill Gretchen. We'll play another Gretchen. We've got a plan for next turn now. We have something to cast. We've got a Malison as well. That's pretty good. Or an Owlbear. Well, an Owlbear against a bunch of 2/2s seems better than Gretchen and Malison here. So let's get that Owlbear out there. Alright, and that's going to hold the fort. Now we just play a couple 2/3s. Seems good. A 2/3 and a thing. We've really got the fort held down. They can 2-for-1 themselves to kill our Owlbear. But I like going for the attack here because we're going to have a 2/3 to block their 2/2s, so we're going to have good blockers again. And I'm not going to be attacking alone, so I don't see a ton of value in the Malison because we're going to keep attacking with this Owlbear. I think I would rather have a 0/4 just to play it really safe with my life total, be able to block both of their attackers here. Because I don't think that I will want to trade my Malison into one of their 2/2s when I have multiple 2/3s coming up, stuff that can just eat them up. Offer the 2-for-1 trade again. If it happens, we're really happy because then we just slam down a Purple Worm, and we also be able to make camp and return Owlbear to hand. Alright, we're kind of just grooving here. We're just vibing. Having a wonderful time taking over the game with creatures that are larger than our opponent's deck is capable of producing, and they're going to scoop them up for that reason. We've just got our big creatures, survived the early aggression, and playing bigger cards. And I think I'm just going to run it right back. I suppose I could correct the mistake and throw Skeletal Swarming back in, but it's just not exactly my massive cup of tea, so I think I am just going to run it back. Potentially the final game here. If we lose, we're out of it. But if we win, we will be heading into another round for massive, massive prizes if we win. If we win this round and another one. So we'll see what we can do here. Opponent on the play. This is a risky keep. I'm not going to lie, but I feel like we have to still keep it because we have both of our colors. We have the guarantee that we're hitting 5 mana plus with Happen on a Glade. We can fight the current, return one of their cards back to their hand to try to survive that early onslaught. We're just fingers crossed that they did not draw a fantastic aggressive hand here, but if they did, even with a great hand, it's going to be hard to beat the powerful aggressive cards in their deck when they're on the play. So let's see what happens here. Pretty sure I'm bouncing that Battlecry Goblin. I already hate it. I already hate they've got Boots of Speed Battlecry Goblin to start things off. It is a very not good time for us. The fact that they have Boots of Speed means, do I even bounce the Goblin here? If I don't bounce the Goblin here, when am I even going to bounce it? Because the thing is, like, next turn I'm going to want to draw lands. I need to draw lands to get to Owlbear. So next turn I'm going to just be casting Happen on a Glade, so I'm not going to bounce it then. But next turn is when I would really need to bounce it, because they can play a land, go Battlecry Goblin, buff Goblin, attack for 6, which gives them Pack Tactics, which gives them another Goblin token. Yeah, this is just kind of abysmal for us. They could definitely have had a scarier start, but just having the Battlecry Goblin here in the first place is pretty bad. I guess I'll hold. So it's possible that I bounce a thing here. Don't think I'm going to cast the Malison. Because if they just have removal for it, I am in a mega bad spot. I think now is when I bounce the Battlecry Goblin. It might have been better to bounce the Valor Singer. They both hit for just as much damage. The Battlecry Goblin's slightly cheaper for them to replay. But either way, they spend all their mana just dropping it back on the board. We can Charmed Sleep the Battlecry Goblin, which is good unless they hit their Swarming Goblins. If they hit their Swarming Goblins, we're in a real bad spot. I guess Yanti Malison could trade for it. And we also have Bull Strength if they try to do 2 damage to the Malison now. So now we can sort of survive removal and still trade, potentially. I would rather try to get the Battlecry Goblin permanently off the board than keep it tapped, because its ability is good. So let's see here. Just attack with Valor Singer here, I guess, is the play. No, they go for the double attack. Alright, they do get the 1-1 off the Battlecry Goblin. That's 3 damage, so we just can't do anything about that. 7. Brutal. Was really hoping for the makeshift, or whatever it's called, the 3 mana 2 damage card over that one. Yeah, this is not really a winning game, whatever we do here, but I think I definitely could have played it more ideally. But Battlecry Goblin with removal to back it up, plus Valor Singer Boots. Just a great aggressive start from our opponent that our deck is not really capable of dealing with. That is going to close it out here. Even if I Charm Sleep the Battlecry Goblin, they can buff the Goblin token twice. That'll kill us. If I play an Owlbear, I can only block one thing. These 2 will kill us. I can't Bull Strength because I have no creatures out. Now we're just dead there. Needed a less aggressive hand from our opponent on the play there. But all in all, a pretty great run through the Forgotten Realms Draft Challenge. We make it to 4 wins and 2 losses. That gives us 3 player draft tokens, so enough to do 2 more drafts and 1 more, just as the cherry on top, 2 drafts, of course, is breaking even because this draft costs twice as much as the drafts you can use the player tokens on. But 10 packs as well. Fantastic rewards there for my first Adventures in the Forgotten Realms draft challenge. I don't know how much more of these I'll be doing. I don't think I'll have another video of these out tomorrow or the next day. I do still have a couple days left in the work week here, and I got some stuff to do at home, so unfortunately, probably won't immediately be another video tomorrow, but as soon as I get a day off, I will record at least 1 or 2 more of these draft challenges. I will be playing a couple more if you'd like to stick around for that. As always, like, comment, and subscribe if you want the YouTube algorithm to know that you're enjoying the content and you want to see more. And I will see you all again very soon for some more Magic Arena. Thank you all for watching.